Hello, good evening and welcome. This is of course the 13 Pro Am Community Rugby League show. Thanks for joining us once again. My name's Dave Parkinson, joined as always by Ste Beech. How are you doing, Steve? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, Parker. I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to this one because I know we've got a really great show on the horizon here.
We do, and we're building up to a certain game that we'll tell you a little bit about later on. So what have we got coming up? Well, we're going to be dropping into Cumbria. We're going to be taking in all the action from the Yorkshire Mens League and also what's happened in the North West Men's League, where there has been plenty of fireworks, let's say.
They certainly have, mate. I was up at one of the big games in Division 2, or probably the big game in Division 2, which would decide possibly who was going to be the winners of that division, and I'll fill you in with that a little bit later. It was a bit, I think, tasty might be the phrase.
Where I do want to start, though, as we have been doing over recent weeks, is up in Cumbria. So again, really good to be able to give some context to what's happening there. So these are the results of the games which took place, or certainly some of them. So Hensingham A 20, Ellenborough A 16. It was 16 points to 12 to Hensingham A at half time. Hensingham A scoring tries through Callum Morgan, who grabbed 2, Travis Fife and Henley Donnan. Conversions went the way, 2 of them by the boot of Jack Kelly. And the scorers for Ellenborough were Aaron Lawson, Zach Alstrom. Sadly, there was no game between Maryport and Cockermouth. Cockermouth didn't have a team, and as a result, that was awarded to Maryport by 24 points to 0. And there was a big score at Distington. They were playing against local rivals Glasson. But before I tell you about that, that's where my destination was, strangely enough, on Saturday. And we're going to have our very first interview of the day. It's with Mark Askew from Distington. And with Mark Askew, we're here at Distington, and I've got to say, what a gorgeous day for Rugby League. Give us a bit of a flavour about what's been going on at the club since probably I last spoke, which is probably about 18 months ago, to be fair.
Oh, well, I agree, Dave. Yeah, it's a beautiful day today. So we've got a game that's going to take place today against Glasson Rangers. So we're looking forward to that. Should be a good battle out there. But yeah, last time we spoke, couple of years, would you say?
It was in the middle of COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the middle of COVID. At the time you spoke was about some community work we were doing. Since then there's been some mega changes at the club. We've had a full club refurb, around about £800,000 spent on the clubhouse itself, so it's looking fantastic.
It is looking fantastic. I know you're giving us the guided tour of it, so
yeah.
It's looking really good.
So it's moving in the right direction. Since then we've developed the youth system tenfold, so we've now got well over 150 kids signed on playing at Distington, and then plus our senior team with 40 odd senior players signed on. So we are in the middle of an NCL application. So we are going to see how that goes. So hopefully we meet criteria and we can sort of move to the next step in our plans. But yeah, so a lot has changed. The club's grew in every aspect. It's improved massively. The pitch has improved. Facilities have improved. I must mention we've got some lovely new shutters in our changing room, which are now motorised. And the club itself, as I've just said there, it's looking really nice.
And I know that when we spoke about Distington being more than a rugby club. Mm-hmm. And I think that has continued, hasn't it, from all the conversations that we've been having off mic?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because we're a close-knit community with a population of about 2,000 in the parish. So this is the central social hub for everybody. Unfortunately, because of the pub decline, it's the only place you can get a pint, which I must admit is a lovely pint as well. But yeah, this is the place everybody loves to come on a Saturday afternoon, watch the boys play. And also, again, all the kids love it here. They've all got the little Distington tops on, and most of them, if not all of them, play for the club. We're in a good place, yeah, definitely in a good place. And we hope to grow and keep growing as well. So everything's positive, yeah.
I want to ask about obviously the Cumbrian competition, because we never seem to speak enough about it, despite me trying to push it where I can. And I know Lorraine sends me all the match reports through and all the stuff which a lot of people put a lot of effort into and stuff.
Absolutely.
How have you been finding the Carla League? Because obviously you've got less clubs that are in it this time round, haven't you?
Yeah. Lorraine's fantastic. She's a brilliant secretary. She's been really good since she took on the role. But the Carla League's it's a great league. It's got some very, very young teams in now, because obviously as as they go through that, where people start to retire and your older heads and your experienced players start to settle down with families and stuff like that, then obviously your younger teams have to come through, and I feel like they've all sort of come through at the same time. So all of these teams in the Carla League are very young, but it is competitive, and with absolute no disrespect towards Carla League or the teams that play in Carla League, we do seem to be the dominant force. So for us, it is the right time for us to look into to join in the NCL. However, we have some good battles in the Carla League. It's a good league. I think it's promising. There's been some great battles out there throughout the league. But for us, I think it's time for us to try at a higher standard and to face a new challenge, definitely.
So Glasson today, how have you gone on against them over the course of the season so far?
Glasson is, for me, and probably for all of us at the club, everybody shares a soft spot for Glasson, because it's always an 80-minute battle. We have been the better team, I should say. We've absolute respect mine over the last 5 or 6 years. I remember back in the days when we first reformed and we played in the second division with Glasson, they were very, very close, fiery encounters, and it still lives on in these games now. However, we do tend to be the stronger team, but we enjoy playing for Glasson. We've got some, we've got a good friendship with them, and we're looking forward to today. It'll definitely be a great game. It'll be an 80-minute battle, so great club. And even in adversity, they've had their fair share of adversity, like a lot of clubs have. They just keep going and keep going. So, yeah, a lot of respect for Glasson.
And forgive me for asking, because I haven't actually seen a league table for this competition this year because of all the changes that have happened. Yeah. Where do you sit on that, and how have you gone overall?
All right, so we're first. We seem to have won the majority of our games comfortably. We have had a couple of good battles with Wharf-Brow, and again, excuse me, but I think we've lost one match, so excuse me if I'm wrong, I should know these, and I think that was to Wharf-Brow. However, we've won the other fixtures, so we are in first position in the league, with a view of holding on to that and hopefully taking the title again this year.
And again, I know through having spoken with people in Cumbria before, you've got umpteen competitions that you play for, haven't you? Yeah,
it's what it is. In the Cumberland League back in the day, when we had 3-4 divisions, many teams from all over West Cumbria, when like even at other areas of the UK, Yorkshire and Lancashire, it has declined. There's no doubt about that. But these cup competitions existed then, and basically, for example, I'll give you an example. You've got the Cumberland Cup, which was a cup that was played in Cumberland, the historical county of Cumberland. Then you've got the Cumbria Cup, which is the county of Cumbria. Then the Amateur Cup, where only amateurs are allowed to play. Even if you've signed, and played one game, you can't play it. It's an amateur competition. There's 5 cups altogether, and these historically exist because of the amount of teams we used to have in Cumbria. Many competitions to play, many cups to be fighting for. So they still exist. They're still there. So so there's 5 competitions in the Cumberland League.
I tell you what, it could get a busy trophy room come the end of the season, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Again, not trying to gloat, but in 2016 we managed to win every single game, and we won all 5 cups. So that was an amazing time for the club, and I think that's really pushed us on to where we are today. We are at a good standard. We believe we're at a good enough standard to join the National Conference League. We feel that it's our time to face a new challenge, definitely. So that's probably where it brings us to today,
You did mention about having a previous application to the National Conference, what, about 6 years ago, 2017-ish?
It was about that time, yeah, definitely.
What was the feedback from that one at the time? Because unfortunately you didn't get in at that occasion.
So that was, there was a number of criteria that we didn't meet. So it was, I think, the main issue was sustainability. So we had a youth system up till under 9s, but beyond that, nothing else. We didn't have a second team. Facilities ticked all the boxes, and you know, the club constitution and the documents and stuff like that. That all ticked the correct boxes, the right boxes.
And you've only enhanced that since then, haven't you? With what you've got going on here today.
Yeah, well, what we've done, we came away from that 6 years ago, and with learning a lot about ourselves and where we were at, and we've come together as a community. Volunteers are second to none. The coaching system we've got with the players that give up their own time for the youth, and the administration support we get. We've developed everything, every aspect of the club we've developed, but what we've done is we've took into consideration what we failed on, and we've worked at it. And now we feel we're in a position that we've got to where we needed to be, which is, again, brings us to where we are today, playing for the NCL. So we feel we've done the work that was required.
And finally from me, obviously when we last spoke a couple of years ago, how have you been developing yourself and your role within the club, and how have you got to be doing what you're doing? I always find that's a really interesting question.
Well, I was... I laugh about it. I wasn't a very good rugby player at all. In fact,
that's two of us.
In fact, I was pretty poor. So I've always been fond of the village I'm from. I've got a love of the place. I really am a proper Distington lad. You know. So for me, it was like, right, I can't play rugby. I'm not very good at it. So what can I do? And it was sort of help out where I could. And it started off with just the minimal stuff like putting the kit out for match days. Helping cleaning up the changing rooms, getting the pitch ready for the games, and then it was like it sort of moved from that to like, all right, we need we've had our chairman step down, so it was like, all right, okay, so we stepped up as chairman, done a chairman's role, but a multitude of other roles as well within the club, with the great team we've got. Like I said, the ethos here isn't I do, it's we do. So then I've got a family of my own now, a couple of young children, so I took a step back from being the chairman. Carl Ewer took over when he stepped down as head coach, as the chairman, but on taking one step back, I probably took 10 steps forward as well. So now it's like running the social media platforms, bringing in the fundraising every year and the sponsorship, collating all the match day things for the programme, so producing the programme. And I just love the club, absolutely love the club, love the lads, love what we've got here, the culture, the family. It's such a family club. It's a credit to the village, so it's great to be part of. But again, there's many of us, it's not just me, so it's a good thing to be involved in at Distington Rugby League, definitely.
Well, best of luck for the day, and best of luck with the NCL application.
Thank you, thanks for your time, cheers.
Gotta say, how good was that, hearing from Mark? Absolutely superb bloke. If you remember, we spoke to him originally during the On Tour series. So that was when Distington were the heart of the local community. So that was Mark Askew. Great to hear from him again. And I've got to say, great that we've touched base with Distington, to be fair, because they were one of the clubs that we spoke to originally back during our lockdown series, weren't they? Where they were doing a lot around the local community, similar to like what Blackbrook were doing as well, and doing deliveries and checking in on people and making sure everyone was okay. And it's really interesting hearing about the journey that club has been on. Obviously, they got a knockback from the National Conference League, 6 years ago? We mentioned 2017.
That's right, yeah.
At the time, they were recommended that they concentrated on bringing the rest of the club up. And by that I mean introducing, like all the different age groups. They've now got age groups there, by the way, from under 7s right the way through to under 14. So fantastic work that they have done, in particular in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. And I've got to say as well, what a team on the field as well. So they were playing, I mentioned just before, local rivals Glasson Rangers, and they beat them by 50 points to 8. Now, it was 30 points to 4 at half time, and certainly there was a couple of players that were real standouts for me. The two half-backs, very, very experienced. They've got Scott George and Tyrone Dalton, who have both played at a high level at certain points in their careers. I remember Tyrone Dalton in particular. He played for a number of the professional clubs in Cumbria as well, and went around the academy structures and what have you. But they have a centre there as well. Gavin Martin scored 4 tries. It seemed every time he touched the ball, he was just having a field day against his opposite number. They've also got a big prop called Brian Ritchie. He grabbed a couple of tries as well. And a goal-kicking second row forward. So that's quite rare, isn't it, when you get a goal-kicking second row forward. He kicked 7 goals from 9 attempts. And Jack Penrice is a guy at fullback who a lot of Cumbrian teams further up the structure have been keeping their beady eyes on.
That name rings a bell. Certainly Penrice. I'm sure when we've been going through results, that name has popped up at times.
Well, he's been a regular scorer, I think, this season.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was too far away from getting like Cumbria selection in the past and things like that too. So that's possibly where we've also mentioned him over the years. But an impressive team. So they won by 50 points to 8 in total. Just to sum up all the scorers, because it's only fair that we do that. Jet Penrice, 2 tries. Gavin Martin, 2 tries. 1 try from Jamie Friel. 2 tries from Brian Ritchie. 7 goals from the boot of Stephen Clark. And then for the visitors, Pete Fearon went over for a try. He was playing in the centres. And Luke Johnson, the halfback, also scored a try. But it was a long old afternoon. And it was an impressive performance as far as Distington were concerned. They won by 50 points to 8. Now that keeps them right in the midst for the top of the league. And I know they were saying that they've got a lot of cup competitions to come as well.
Yeah.
So this is the thing in Cumbria, and with the Cumbrian League and all that's involved there, you do get plenty to play for. I joked at one point because he said that they won everything that they possibly could do back in 2016.
Yeah, you heard him say that,
before they made the application for the National Conference League. And I was like, oh, your trophy cabinet. So you can win 5 trophies a season. I mean, it's just phenomenal, what they've got going on up there. So they are in the midst of a National Conference League application once again.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, they're an impressive contender. Lovely people that we met, great people doing stuff in the background. A young talented team led by a couple of older heads, and looking like they're doing stuff.
Well, it's like he was saying, that it sounds like the club is the centre of the community now, certainly from a social point of view as well as the rugby. So they both fit hand in glove in that respect of bringing spectators and obviously revenue to keep things going, which is obviously very important. It's sustainability, isn't it?
And the impressive thing as well, that when you looked around the pitch, both sides had lots of sponsor boards.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of those sponsors, they're all local people. I mean, they were saying it's a community that's basically got 2,000 people in it. So we're talking about a really small community.
That's tight, isn't it? Yeah.
But it is tight. The kids were all coming out of the houses and like, oh, it's rugby time, and going on in. It was a great place to sort of watch your rugby.
Yeah.
And particularly it was a lovely day as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, like that, you get absolute brilliant buy-in, don't you, to what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
And certainly from an NCL point of view, if they could get that would sort of just step that up even more. And they'd probably get even more, because if you're seeing sort of competitions where suddenly you aren't always running away with things and winning all things, it's. You get a bit more sort of buy-in there as well, or it helps put to people buying more as well.
And certainly, it's almost a tradition that teams come into the National Conference League and they're immediately competitive, they're immediately successful. So you look down the years and the number of teams that have come into that division, well, it was previously Division 2 and then Division 3, they've then sort of done really, really well off the back of it. So, Hunslet, who we talk about quite regularly on the show, they started at that level. Wathbrow Hornets at one point when they came in had to start at that level and build their way up. Everybody's done it. So when they've come into National Conference, they've always started in the lowest of the divisions, and then they've kind of permeated the way through and found their natural level.
It's a lot of the clubs up there are like that, and I think we spoke last week when we were talking about Egremont, and we were saying, again, another tight community. It sounds as though that is the norm. They all know each other, but they're all tight around their own areas and really well supported in that respect.
And one thing that has been obvious in sort of speaking to people is that there's a real sense of community, and I mean generally within Cumbria. So they're happy that other teams are doing well, and other teams are coming through. Where I find that a little bit alien, being around the parts that we're from. Sort of when you look at Wigan, St Helens, Warrington, they're all competitive clubs, and let's be honest, they're not really bothered if the nearest and dearest isn't doing particularly well, are they? As long as they're getting the win.
That's right. Yeah.
So I kind of I always appreciate perhaps the sense of community more. And isn't it great to have another Cumbrian accent on the show?
Oh yeah, and it's great that they've gone from strength to strength. And after listening to him, like you say, on your On Tour series, which by the way, do you know that was virtually, it would have been
3 years ago.
3 years ago, 200 episodes ago.
Wow.
Last week, I was having a look, last week was our 200th episode of the Community Rugby League show.
Wow. See, it was a good lockdown idea after all, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, if anything, lockdown has helped us out brilliantly well, hasn't it?
It certainly has. Now, I do want to go on and forgive the rustle of the papers because,
yes, he's got a paper. You're not going to believe it's actually got a paper.
Yeah, sometimes we do these things where I actually look up and get them downloaded and on screens and that type of thing. I'm doing it old school tonight. Old school tonight. So let's look at the Yorkshire Men's League, shall we? And there's a little bit of a write-up in the League Express this week. Guess where it's from?
Could it be... let me see. It's got to begin with M.
You're right. Methley Warriors.
Methley Warriors.
So it says here, this little write-up.
Good evening, Phil, by the way.
Injury hit Methley Warriors, who started with only 14 players and were later reduced to 12 men through further injuries and a sin binning. Led neighbours Castleford Panthers 8-0 in the Division 3 derby, but fell away in the closing stages in a 46-14 reverse. Cav Griffin and Jordan Byers crossed for the Warriors, with Freddie Wright landing 3 goals, whilst the Panthers prevailed through a Brandon Worsley brace, a try and 5 goals by Joe Wood, and touchdowns for Reuben Walker, Lewis Ransom, Drew Wright, Max Lambourne and Jake Smith. George Constantine also improved 2 efforts. So nice that we can give them a little bit of a mention, isn't it? And well played Castleford Panthers on that one. What were the rest of the results? Well, certainly we had, again, a few 24-0s in here, so it doesn't sound like some of these games actually took place. So on Friday night in the NCL West, Shawcross Sharks 24, Milford 0. Then in the Premier Division on Saturday, it was Westgate Common 24, King Cross Park 0. Doncaster Tolbar 24, Brighouse Rangers 0. Fryston Warriors 28, Almondbury Spartans 6. And I've not got a score for this one. Newsham Panthers against Siddle Academy, but I do believe that Newsham Panthers won that game.
Right. If you leave that with me, I'll have a check for you.
While you're doing that, Steve.
What division was that, Parker?
So that was the Premier Division of the Yorkshire Men's League. So while you're doing that, I'll bring you the Division 1 results as I have them. Keighley Albion 28, Stanley Rangers 20. What a game that sounded like it was. This one sounds like it didn't go ahead. Ossett Trinity Tigers 24, Hull Wyke 0. Charleston Rovers 40, Nottingham Outlaws 12. And then Division 2, we've got Illingworth 24, Greetland All-Rounders 0. Kirkburton Cougars 24, Farnley Falcons 0, Mould Green 10, Wibsey Warriors 26, and Odsall Sedberg 0, Bradford Dudley Hill 24. And then Division 3, the results that we have there. We've already read one out and a little report. Methley Warriors 14, Castleford Panthers 46, Garforth Tigers 24, Wyke 34, Birstall Victoria 24, Underbank Rangers 0, Seacroft Sharks 24, Elland 0. And then in Division 4A we've got Crickleston All Blacks 12, Batley Boys 20, Goole Vikings 24, Scarborough Pirates 0, York St John Barbarians 32, Bramley Buffaloes 10. And then in Division 4B, Todmorden 12, Birkinshaw Blue Dogs 32. Todmorden also getting a double. because they were awarded a 24-0 result against Brighouse Rangers A, and West Craven Warriors 42, Keighley Albion Academy 4. So they must have been able to rearrange a game pretty quick in that case. That's the only thing that I can think of there. Then Division 4C, we have Rycroft Hammers 0, Dearn Valley Bulldogs 24. No result between Upton and Dodworth Miners. Hull Division, it was East Hull against Myton Warriors, but unfortunately that was postponed. West Hull 16, Scurler Bulls 44. And then in the NCL East, I don't think either of these games took place either, to be fair. Hunslet 24, Heworth 0. Normanton Knights 24, Lock Lane 0. And then no result from the NCL West, Saddleworth Rangers against West Bowling Academy.
Was it Newsham Panthers?
Newsham Panthers, yeah.
Yeah, Newsham Panthers 30, Siddle Academy 20.
Good result, that, you know, because, I mean, we all know the strength that Siddle play with, and certainly how they structure their club. They're the next taxis off the rank, if you like, that are going to go into the first team and will get the opportunity. And let's be honest, with the way that, modern community rugby league goes, you probably need about 50 players to complete a season now, don't you?
It's big, isn't it? Yeah. Especially with the different competitions, etc. as well.
Did you get any of the other results that had no result next to? So we had Division 4C. We got Upton against Dodworth Miners.
Let's have a look again. It's Yorkshire Men's Division 4C, was it?
Yeah, Upton against Dodworth Miners.
Everybody shouting, and that's not what the result actually was.
This is how we build tension, isn't it? Because everybody will be there. Come on, you know it.
It's Upton 40, Dodworth Miners 20.
Upton's been having a good season, haven't they? Certainly, they seem to have won far more than they've lost this year.
Top of the league.
So that tells you they've been having a good season, then, doesn't it, if you're top of the league. And then one other one from the NCL West. I'm not sure whether it goes as far on that Rugby League website.
Yeah, NCL West we're looking for.
And it's Saddleworth against West Bowling Academy.
And it was Saddleworth Rangers 48, West Bowling Academy 6.
It's really turning around for Saddleworth Rangers, isn't it? Across all fronts at the moment.
And they're top of the league there as well. And West Bowling Academy was second, so that was...
so it's top against second and a mismatch.
Yeah.
Wow. So they're obviously doing something right there, Saddleworth Rangers. Fixtures this coming weekend in the Premier Division on Saturday. Westcott Common are due to play against Almonry Spartans. Brighouse Rangers are set to take on Newsham Panthers. Doncaster Tollbar host Fryston Warriors. In Division 1, Cutside Raiders go over to Keighley Albion. Stanley Rangers are at home to Charleston Rovers. Ossett Trinity Tigers, well, they face a tricky away tie at Nottingham Outlaws. In Division 2, you've got Farnley Falcons, who are at home to Mould Green. You've got Odsall Sedberg, who are away at Gritland All-Rounders. Queensbury are at Illingworth. And Bradford Dudley Hill are set to take on Wibsey Warriors away. In Division 3, your fixtures as they are in the printed. It's Birstall Victoria against Methley Warriors. I look forward to reading a little report on that one. Castleford Panthers are up against Wyke. Seacroft Sharks against Garforth Tigers. Elland are on the road at Sherburn Burrs. And then Division 4A, York St John Barbarians are hosting Batley Boys. Scarborough Pirates up against Westgate Common A. And Division 4B, King Cross Park Academy are hosting Newsham Panthers A. And in the Hull Division, 2 games set to take place. Beverley up against West Hull. Myton Warriors up against East Hull. I'm going to jump across to the Southern Conference, which the Championship semi-finals took place between West Warriors and Brentwood Eels, and the Hammersmith Hills Hoists against the London Chargers. So, the results: West Warriors 38, Brentwood Eels 6, Hammersmith Hills Hoists 28, London Chargers 12. So it's the big grand final in the Southern Conference this weekend, to be honest, and it's Hammersmith Hills Hoists up against West Warriors. Kick-off on Saturday is 3:30. Ahead of that is the Harry Jepson Trophy final, and that features Medway Dragons up against Telford Raiders. Both of those games are being played over at Hemel Rugby League Club. So that was once hosting professional games as well.
Yeah, it was Stags, wasn't it?
They were.
Yeah.
They were. And in fact, that's Cornwall.
Ah, yes, I remember now.
Yeah, because they bought the they bought the franchise.
That's
or they
correct,
bought,
yeah.
They bought the club, or I'm not quite sure. I'm not even going there. It's confusing enough, without.
Is it the licence?
It might have been a licence. It might have been a licence, but they got voting rights.
Mm.
So whereas your likes of your Toulouse and your Catalan Dragons, they don't have voting rights. Cornwall do.
Yeah. So is it because they're not? Is it because those two French teams are actually invited to come into?
Invited, they're not members.
Yeah.
That's the pro bit done for this case. This episode, isn't it? We are, of course, a 13-prong community rugby league show. I'm getting back onto the community. So it was the Furnace Tiles Top 4 final at the weekend. I hope you can find this, Steve, because I've got Ulverston 26, Millom.
Oh.
No result.
Let's have a look, see if we can...
So I wonder whether there is something on that.
And we're looking at...
So this is the Barrow League.
Barrow League.
Barrow ARL. Furnace Tiles Top 4 final. It was played on Friday night. We've got people screaming at us yet again from Ulverston and Millom saying, "What are you doing, not having the score?" We do know Ulverston scored 26 points.
Ulverston against Millom.
Yeah, Ulverston 26.
Millom A, because they were both A sides, weren't they? It's
Yeah.
Ulverston A 26, Millom A 20.
Oh, so that was a much closer game than we were anticipating.
Yeah.
Again, we've got people screaming at us, haven't we?
That was played at Craven Park as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. They have all the finals being played there.
Yeah.
It's a really well used facility, that at Craven Park up at Barrow.
It's Barrow's version of Featherstone, isn't it? In that
Yeah,
respect.
it is. They host so many games. They host all the Furnace Raiders college team as well.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Right, where else shall we go now? I tell you where we'll go. We'll go Northwest Men's League, Steve.
Northwest Men's League. Well, here we go with the results, which actually started from last week when we were on air. He says with his tongue firmly in his cheek. Division 2, we've got Rochdale Mayfields A 24, Lee Miners Rangers A 16. And we move on to Saturday on a full range of fixtures there. Kicking off with the Premier Division, Hindley 0, Ashton Burrs 50. Ashton Burrs top of the tree there in the Premier Division. Blackbrook 36, Heysham Atoms 12. Latchford Albion were over at Shevington Sharks, and it was Shevington Sharks 26, Latchford Albion 10. Division 1, Cadishead Rhinos 18, Ulverston 25. Chorley Panthers 12, Foley Lane 16. Dalton got a forfeit over Salford City Roosters. And then we had Wigan Springview 24, Wigan St Cuthberts 16. So a close Wigan battle there. Division 2, Ashton Burrs A 24, Newton Storm 6. Lee Miners Rangers A got the walkover against Woolston Rovers. Rochdale Mayfield A 22, Hypo Tigers 23. And finally, the big one there in the Cumbrian area, Walney Central 28, Roost Pioneers 16. Bit of a turn up for the Books, certainly from the start of the season, because Roost Pioneers, if you remember, were really strong and probably at the time were the strong favourites for that division. And then there was Golborne Parkside 14, Burtonwood Bridge 22, and that was the one that I went to, Parky, because that was 1 and 2 in the in that division, and it was one of those where if Burtonwood Bridge won, they would be champions because they'd be too far away from Golborne Parkside. But if Parkside won, then it would bring it all down to the final games of the season. Started off two tough teams, and you knew it was going to be a hard, tough game because obviously there was something at stake. These two had played in the final, I think, last season before they both went up into the division that they're in now. Played in the Cup, I think it was semi-final this year as well, the Barlow Cup, and again it was another tough game.
So they know a lot about each other.
Yeah, very much so. But it started off with Golborne actually taking the lead, early doors, a 4-point lead. But then the Burtonwood side started to get things together, and certainly the half-back pairing of apologies if I do get the half-back's name wrong, or the scrum half he was at the time, Christian Salvilla Tagiuna, I think his name is.
Hello, good evening and welcome. This is of course the 13 Pro Am Community Rugby League show. Thanks for joining us once again. My name's Dave Parkinson, joined as always by Ste Beech. How are you doing, Steve? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, Parker. I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to this one because I know we've got a really great show on the horizon here.
We do, and we're building up to a certain game that we'll tell you a little bit about later on. So what have we got coming up? Well, we're going to be dropping into Cumbria. We're going to be taking in all the action from the Yorkshire Mens League, and also what's happened in the North West Men's League, where there has been plenty of fireworks, let's say.
They certainly have, mate. I was up at one of the big games in Division 2, or probably the big game in Division 2, which would decide possibly who was going to be the winners of that division, and I'll fill you in with that a little bit later. It was a bit, I think, tasty might be the phrase.
Where I do want to start though, as we have been doing over recent weeks, is up in Cumbria. So again, really good to be able to give some context to what's happening there. So these are the results of the games which took place, or certainly some of them. So Hensingham A 20, Ellenborough A 16. It was 16 points to 12 to Hensingham A at half time. Hensingham A scoring tries through Callum Morgan, who grabbed 2, Travis Fife and Henley Donnan. Conversions went the way, 2 of them by the boots of Jack Kelly. And the scorers for Ellenborough were Aaron Lawson, Zach Alstrom. Sadly, there was no game between Maryport and Cockermouth. Cockermouth didn't have a team, and as a result, that was awarded to Maryport by 24 points to 0. And there was a big score at Distington. They were playing against local rivals Glasson. But before I tell you about that, that's where my destination was, strangely enough, on Saturday. And we're going to have our very first interview of the day. It's with Mark Askew from Distington.
And Rob Fairclough, that was the halfback partner, and they absolutely spread the ball about. The kicking game was really good as well, and once they started to get in the stride, they started to exploit the right hand side, obviously the left hand side, with some lovely moves, and they went in for a few tries down that side. Later on, there was a sin binning for one of the Golborne side, which then obviously sort of helped Burtonwood, give them a little bit more space, but it was still a close competition. Half time, it was still quite narrow. What happened shortly after into the second half was, or just before the half, Golborne had a player sent off for a high tackle, which then obviously give a definitive, we've certainly got an extra player over here for the second half. And whether Burtonwood thought, well, yeah, this is going to be a bit easy in this respect, and they started a little bit what looked lax to a certain extent, instead of sort of getting knuckling down, because Golborne, they're not frightened of getting stuck in. Basically, they're a hard team, and you just got to be careful. And they started to get back in it, scored a couple of tries, then Burtonwood just got away, and I think it was 22-10 or 12, something along those sort of lines. So there was just 20 minutes to go. It looked as though that would be it to a certain extent, with having the extra man, etc. Then on the 60th minute, a fight broke out on the pitch. You don't call a fight a standard, but as rugby games goes, it was one of those. Everybody rushed in to break things up. There was pulling people off, etc., pushing. The referee sort of, as they do, let things go to settle themselves down. But as it fell over into the touch line, then one of the supporters, or it was either supporters or coaching staff, it was hard to tell because we were on the other side of the barrier. Mm-hmm. went in and it got involved in this fracas, as it were, which then exacerbated it and just made it a lot worse, because so consequently everybody saw red, in the sense of it just got out of hand. It was ugly, and I actually tweeted that it was ugly, and to be honest, it was a gorgeous day. There was a great crowd over on the Golborne side, a great crowd on the Burtonwood side. There was lots of people with cheers having a lovely time. There's lots of kids there as well, and to be fair to both sides, as much as the fight had broke out on the pitch, it was a fight. The fact that it spilled over and these people got involved didn't bode well, I don't think, on certainly on the Burtonwood side, because it came from there initially. I wouldn't blame any of the players for what happened in that respect. I think it was a natural reaction there. And it's probably one of the strangest and frightening things that I'd seen, because I saw all these kids, all these families, and I thought, this is not what you want to see. Obviously, then the coach got the teams away and brought things up. We're talking to the referee. Matty Wilson, the coach of Burtonwood, came over, told the person, the spectator, etc. The referee, sent him off. He had to go leave. He left, went over to his car, and apparently it all kicked off near his car, his van, etc. So there were some ugly scenes there as well. And it wasn't good in that respect. And it was a shame, because it had been a really good game. And it left a bit deflated. But Sam said 60 minutes had gone. I checked on obviously the results board, the RFL results board, when I got home, and the result stands as far as I'm aware. But from a repercussions point of view, because obviously it was all videoed, because they had the VO camp on there, and there was one issue where one of the players had complained to the referee that he'd had his manhood scores, as they say, so he put it on report, so that it's going to have to be looked at from there. What will happen, I don't know, but it was ugly, and I can't sit back and not say, go and see that, and not say anything, because if you remember at the beginning when we started doing this, we said we'd tell the truth, in the sense that if it was good, we'd say it was good, but if we saw things that were bad, we'd call that out as well. And I think on this occasion, as much, as I don't like doing it, I've got to be honest, and that's what I saw.
So it sounds like a deplorable act, in all honesty.
It was.
And the way that has descended, I mean, you could end up with, and I don't mean to over-dramatise this at all, but you could end up with actually saying it could really affect how those kids that you said there were so many of them view rugby league now.
Yeah.
In perhaps seeing that as possible acceptable behaviour in future, which it definitely isn't if somebody's swinging punches left, right and centre, and they shouldn't be joining in. You shouldn't be in that position.
No.
And I'm guessing from how you've described it, this wasn't just a youngster who'd had a little bit too much ale. We're talking about a full-grown bloke here, aren't we?
Yeah. And I mean, he obviously knew quite a few of the Golborne players, because he was had been giving them a bit of stick, etc., and winding them up as well. And to a certain degree, you saw it and you thought something could happen here, but you always thought, well, am I just reading too much in it? And it was. I mean, if they do look at it, which I'm sure they will, everything is there, because it happened right underneath the VO cam, which was right behind the dugout. So, and it sort of came all the way back along the touchline towards the dugout. So, from my point of view, I had a ringside seat, and it just happened right in front of us. And it was a sad way to finish what had been a great match. It was a gorgeous day.
And also a great season between these two that have gone hammer and tongue at each other all the way through, haven't they, to be fair?
Yeah. And obviously from a playoffs point of view as well, are these clubs deemed to meet each other in the playoffs at some point? It could well happen. So you don't know what's going to happen. It'll be interesting to find out what repercussions there are going to be, because it's certainly, and it's a thing, I think, Parker, that it's something that happened there, but on other occasions when I've been round to various clubs as well, there's been similar sort of things where you think, you know,
there is a little bit of potential for something happening.
Yeah. I think in this case it was just a little bit that obviously the fight broke out, and this man just got involved, and there was no need, because as I said, the bottom line was, if the guy who was getting punched needed to be protected, he had a shed full of other teammates that could help him out, and that's usually and what was happening at the time. Everybody was going in and moving out, and there was a few little fracas from it. But once this happened, all the attention then turned to him. So everybody was, sort of what he'd done. Because when he punched this guy who'd started the fight from a Golborne point of view, I just couldn't believe, because he just ran in and basically just copped him one. He was blindsided.
As you were saying though, Steve, I hope that has all been picked up, and that is something that the league will investigate. I make no bones about it. The RFL have been so keen over the last couple of years about touchline behaviours. Just out of interest, did the referee have a head cam?
He didn't, and we discussed this strangely enough early doors. There was two couples who was to the side who I was talking to, and they said, shouldn't he have an head cam on? And I said, as far as I'm aware from a Northwest Men's, I said, I don't think it's compulsory.
Well, they go out, there's about 40 cameras that they have, which go out to various to referees, they go out to various match officials. Yeah,
and they said it could be an ad hoc thing. I said, I don't think there's enough to go around every single match. I said, but I know, I said, NCL, they do. I said, but I think that's the case of, this is one of those where there wasn't one available, which, with the history of that game, also the 3 games I've just told you about, it probably would have been, interesting and probably been, hindsight's a great thing, but it probably would have been a good idea.
You know what? I mean, this takes me back to, I can't remember whether I've ever told you this actually, Steve, but a long, long time ago, I can still remember when. I actually served on the disciplinary committee of the 13s to 15s Northwest Juniors, and I used to quite like it. On a Sunday morning, you'd pick a game and you'd go to it, but you wouldn't tell anybody that you was going, and you'd just turn up, because you'd then get honest reactions there. So it makes me wonder whether, there's a disciplinary sort of committee that can still do that and will still go around. And B, it's certainly, like you said, we used to do it, and we used to look at flashpoints which had happened between teams and between age groups and things like that, and we'd make sure that those games in particular were covered, to give the referee a little bit of backing if necessary, and just to be there to sort of like say, right, I'm from the management committee, I'm from the disciplinary committee here, this isn't on, and then don't get me wrong, you never wanted to do that. I was always fortunate that on any of the games that I went to didn't actually kick off. And obviously the previous thing getting carried on over. But you're right. I think they've got to be really, really careful the next time that these two teams meet, because who knows if that's in a final, which potentially it could be, couldn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Very much. 1 and 2. In the league, and both were in the final last year. Both have been obviously in the semi-finals. I think it was the Barlow Cup this season. So the two good, hard-working teams. I've got to say, from a refereeing point of view, I thought he had a really good game. I mean, there was an argument like he couldn't control it when the fight broke out. This was two sets of players coming together. There was only him. Don't forget, there are no.
As a referee, is that your job to control it, or is your job to sort of like just go right and let them fight and then sort out the aftermath of it?
Yeah, I thought he was good all around.
We're not talking John Holdsworth, where he used to jump in the middle of them and start dragging players away from each other,
dragging Les Boyd off something.
Yeah, I mean, he was brave, wasn't he, John?
Yeah. But no, I thought he was really good. And, the fact that if you remember the week before, we had the discussion about the referee's decision is not always the final decision about abandoning a game.
Yeah. There was no restart in this one, was there?
No. And sadly, you couldn't even dream of restarting it because the repercussions that went on all around the ground then, it was just... I mean, I suppose there's the argument that if he had done, would those people have gone over and done what they'd done on the car park? Maybe or maybe not, I don't know. But the bottom line is that from his point of view, it was the rugby match itself, and I think he did the right thing.
Sounded like the only thing missing was John Wayne. Flipping heck. OK Corral. The Wild West in Golborne, eh?
Well, the strange thing was that the actual Golborne club itself, you could only go in part of it from a bar point of view, because apparently the main room there was actually a wedding going on, and just after all this had finished, and it was starting to calm down, the bride and groom came in from the car park and I thought, no, this is like Love Actually or something like that with an X rating.
Oh, imagine what would have happened if they'd been just 10 minutes or 15 minutes earlier.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, you pick them.
Oh, you always remember your wedding, that's what it is. Right, so there we go. So that was Division 2 on a bit of a length, but it had to get mentioned. And then we've got Division 3, Clotface Chargers. They gave the forfeit to Blackpool Scorpions, so they got the win there. Then we had Garswood Stags 18, Higginshaw 16, Rochdale Hornets 4, Waterhead Warriors A 26, West Bank Bears, they got the walkover against Crossfields, so that was a win for them. Division 4, Bank Key Bulls against Guardswood Stags Reserves was postponed for some reason. I'm not sure why. Wigan Springview A12, Liverpool Lizards. Wait for this one, Parker. 54.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What a great result that is.
That is a really good result. I mean, a win, it would have been a good result, but 54 points, yeah.
That's a noteworthy occasion, that, isn't it?
And the last one was Culture Eagles got the walkover because Preston thought Rebel Rabbitohs obviously no longer featured in Division 4. So we're looking at next week's fixtures to wrap things up, just ready in time for sorting out the placings for the playoffs. So we've got Saturday the 16th, we've got the Premier Division Hindley take on Shevington Sharks, Blackbrook go over to Holton Farmers Hornets, Isham Hattams welcome Hurstfinch, who have not played for a couple of weeks, so whether they'll be a bit rusty, and that's a long haul as well. And Oral St James in a tasty one against Ashton Bears. And then Division 1, Salford City Roosters welcome Chorley Panthers. Wigan Springview travel all the way up to Ulverston. Cadisted Rhinos welcome West Orton Lions. And Satterwith Crusaders welcome Dalton. Wigan St Cuthberts, they'll travel to Foley Lane. Division 2, Roost Pioneers, they'll all the way down here to Ashton and they'll play Ashton Bears A. Burtonville Bridge, well, they're up against Newton Stone. That should be a good one. Highpool Tigers will take on Golborne Parkside. Woolston Rovers A are up against Warnley Central. Whether that'll take place, I'm not sure, because I know Woolston Rovers have forfeited quite a few matches, certainly recently. So Warnley might get the walkover there, but we'll see. Division 3, Garswood Stags welcome Rochdale Hornets. Langworthy Reds will take on West Bank Bears. Waterhead Warriors A welcome Clotface Chargers A. Crossfields A will play Blackpool Scorpions. And finally, Division 4, Banky Bulls will take on Liverpool Lizards. Bolton take on Garswood Stags Reserves. And Wigan Springview A, well, they should be up against Preston and South Rebel Rabbitohs, but again, that one will probably be a walkover. So that's your fixtures for the upcoming week in the North West Men's, and we'll see what happens this week. If we do get any more information on the outcome of that game we've just been talking about, we'll certainly bring it to you and let you know, because I think it's important that we do know what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. Right, National Conference League. So by the quirk of fate, where we actually did our show and it went live actually last Tuesday, didn't it?
It did. Oh.
So the reason behind that was that on Wednesday I was away. So I was off to Dewsbury for Shawcross Sharks against East Leeds. So I've got my little write-up here. So already relegated East Leeds turned the form book upside down with victory over third place Shawcross Sharks in National Conference Division 2 on Wednesday night. 2 tries from former Super League centre Thomas Minns bookended victory as East Leeds showed a greater will to win. Other than the 2 tries that established the 0-10 advantage, the first period was largely one to forget, with both sides spilling lots of ball. The visitors opened the scoring after just 2 minutes when Owen Hughes kicked wide and James Duckworth got the ball inside for Minns to touch down. Luke Littlewood couldn't goal and it remained 0-4 until the 35th minute, although Duckworth saw a score disallowed and Ben Ripley was tackled into touch for Shawcross. Some superb cover from Josh Wood denied another chance for the hosts after Callum Barker put a teasing short kick in. East Leeds' second try was a cracker and came after another strong run from Duckworth, which helped set up the position for Hughes to send Luke Littlewood herring over by the post. Littlewood also goaled and it was 0-10. At the start of the second half, Littlewood threatened to get away from the defence, only to be felled by an ankle tap, but East Leeds was to stretch their advantage 8 minutes in. It proved an excellent effort too, as Brandon Crossland, Kane Riley, Hughes and Littlewood all touched the ball and moved play left for wing AJ Wilson to finish superbly in the corner. Littlewood goaled and it was 0-16. The visitors thought they had scored a 4th try after 52 minutes, but Hughes was ruled offside. In frustration, he threw the ball away, which was deemed as slowing play down and sin-binned. In his absence, Shawcross grafted and won some position of their own before their young halfback Evan Stevenson carved through the middle and finished brilliantly for Deck Tomlinson to goal. The visitors' Adam Keedy was held up over the line, and after turning over possession, Minns followed up with a crunching tackle that won the ball back for East Leeds. The game continued to ebb and flow until Duckworth blotted his copybook in rolling the ball away. This was again ruled a delay of the game and the winger was sin-binned. Despite being reduced to 12 players again, it was East Leeds who somehow created an overlap for Minns to dive acrobatically in the corner and seal a 6-20 win that gives the visitors plenty to ponder ahead of a Division 3 campaign next year. This was a cracking performance, to be honest, by East Leeds. They played some great stuff, and to be fair, when I looked at the team sheet, I thought, how have they not been able to put this side on the park all the way through the season?
Parky, that's what I said to you. I mean, some of the stuff they played, I know I harp on about when they played Woolston. I mean, that's the only time I've seen them, but as I said, they had minimal amount of players, yet played some great stuff. The forwards played some great minutes. I think they had one substitute, so they managed to rotate through that one substitute. So from a managed point of view, there, that was brilliant. Obviously, they weren't getting the results, even though they were playing the good stuff. But we couldn't understand. We've said, we can't understand how this has happened. And as I said, at that particular time, I'd heard the whisper about Bob Roberts coming back. And it looks as though he's helped to turn things around here.
Well, you mentioned Rob Roberts. I caught up with him after the game, and this is our conversation. Well, got to say, Rob Roberts, absolutely fantastic performance this evening. That's been coming, hasn't it? You were just saying before we started the recording there that it's been getting closer, haven't it, these results?
I think it has been coming. I mean, some of these lads they haven't had a pre-season, and over the last probably couple of months we've been travelling with probably 12, 13, 14 players. The last 2 games we've actually been able to interchange our middles and rotate them, and it makes such a massive difference, especially in the heat. And I think tonight it proved, if we'd have had this squad throughout the season, we'd have probably been pushing in for the top 3.
I mean, you've got some smart players, haven't you, in there? And I know, we could go and look at the negatives of getting a couple of players silly sin bins and that type of stuff, but you played some really good, tough stuff when it needed to, didn't you?
Yeah, we certainly did. I mean, at half time we were 10 points up, but we were only completing at 40%, which, I thought could come back and bite us on the arse. Sorry for that, but in the second half. But, the second half completion improved, and I think we just got our just rewards in the end.
Very much so. And again, who stood out for you? Was it those middles?
I think it was the middles. They was massive for us, but also the little bit of an experience on the edges, Thomas Minns and James Duckwood, who've played at a higher level. And I think, towards the end of the game, just their talk and being on the field sort of helped us through.
How have you got those two lads back? I mean, Minzy, for start, 12, 18 months ago, he's playing Super League.
I think, to be fair, I'm a Leeds 14 boy and so are them. So we sort of snared them that way, and a couple of the lads got onto him. And do you know what I mean? We're probably only babysitting Minzy until he finds a club for next year. And Ducky's, he's been out with injury, so he hasn't been able to play much this year. But the difference they make, and not only that, just in training, the way they help the other players playing in the centre and wing position, it's just massive for us.
Am I now thinking that you've got players to come in, for next season potentially? Are you doing a bit of a rebuild job?
So I think obviously it's known now that we're going to go down. We'll rebuild. We've already started recruitment for next year. Hopefully we can snare 5 or 6 back from the scholarship system that we've lost who haven't been kept on. Hopefully we'll get another couple of players coming back to the club. And we need a pre-season. We haven't. The lads haven't had a pre-season, and to be fair, the lads didn't have a coach for the first 9-10 rounds, so a good pre-season, get some more recruits in, and we're hoping to go well next year.
Because I've got to say, Rob, that it's been a great pleasure of mine, obviously following yourself, obviously with our backgrounds and stuff like that, but it's been a great pleasure following the East Leeds story over the last few years, and I just thought you'd go from strength to strength. So for this season to happen as it's happened just seems like an absolute nightmare, to be fair.
It's really disappointing. As a club, we've struggled throughout the age groups. We haven't under 18s for 3 years. We lost the YML this year after 4 games because we couldn't raise a team. On the back of last year's success, I think we lost 16 players from an open age squad, and you know how hard it is to get players to play community, with a lot of people work Saturdays now, and a lot of players don't want to get injured. As sad as it sounds, that's just the way it seems to have gone. But we can finish the season strong, and like I say, rebuild, and hopefully next year we'll be successful again.
Fingers crossed, Rob. Thank you very much.
No worries, Parky. Cheers, pal.
Cheers. Superb to hear from Rob again. I did ask him a couple of quite telling questions, didn't I? And got some really good answers, actually. So you heard him say there that they had up to 16 players that walked out on the club at the start of the season. And then he's ended up coming back, and one by one they seem to have returned. He's like the Pied Piper.
Tell you what, it's massive, that, isn't it? Absolutely massive.
Well, I was joking there, to be fair.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know that there are players that are still playing at other clubs, as well. But how's he managed to get a former Super League centre in Tom Mins playing for him?
Absolutely unbelievable, that. And obviously, that's good. We talk about players coming back to sort of the community when they've not lost away, but may not have lost their opportunities, as it were, from a professional or semi-professional point of view. But it just goes to show that if you still want to, keep your hand in, keep your sharpness, as it were, the teams that are there, and East Leeds, like we said, they do play good rugby. It's good to watch.
And fair play to Mins as well, because he's still, only 28, 29.
Yeah.
It just seems like he's been around forever.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when players get to a certain age. You think, he must have been around for about 15 years, or it sometimes feels that way, doesn't it? And certainly in the pro ranks. But, great win that, to be honest.
Can I just say, though, I think I messaged you when we were on about that result. So Shawcross Sharks have had it hard, haven't they? I mean, so many games in such a short space of time.
It's 5 games in 16 days.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
5 games in 16 days. And to be fair, they even brought the kick-off forward for that game because there's no floodlights there at Shawcross. Yeah. Fantastic setup, by the way. They've got a huge clubhouse. So they've got all the changing areas and stuff on the ground floor, and then upstairs is the bar area.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely setup. It's apparently been there since 1988. And I've driven past that so often when I've been going to Dewsbury.
Yeah.
And I never stopped by before. Yeah. Didn't know it was there. So great to actually get down there. Although I have had my orders.
Got to go back.
No, I've had my orders. I've the people listening will be pleased to hear that I've actually given myself some orders, and that is to try and stay away from Shawcross for the rest of the season, because we've seen them. I've seen them 3 times, and they've lost 3 games. They've only lost how many games all season? They've lost 7 games all season, and I've seen 3 of the losses.
It's a bit like me. The people this next week are frightened to death. I'll turn up for a match because they know it's going to get abandoned.
But yeah, it was a fantastic advert, that, to be honest, and fair play to East Leeds for coming up with that result, and to Shawcross Sharks for completing what has been an arduous fixture list.
Not only that, Parky, I don't think the story's actually finished there, as we'll find out in a second or two.
No, we do have more to come on that one.
Stay tuned, as they say.
Premier Division, Hull Dockers 6, Hunslet 64. So Hunslet confirming the top of the league leaders as far as the Premier Division is concerned. What a superb season they've had. So 19 wins out of 22 matches. Just to go through the scorers, from a Dockers point of view, Dan Sotheby scored a try and kicked a goal. For Hunslet, Al Rawi scored 3 tries, Tyler Dargan scored 5, Jamie Fields was on the score sheet along with
is
Shoulder
that the same
and
the same Jamie Fields who I'm not playing this season?
Oh, well, have you been missing half my roundups? He's been playing for half the season, it seems. It's that very same Jamie Fields. Great to see you back out on the pitch, mate. Jordan Gale kicked 8 goals. Fields kicked 1. Dargan kicked 1 as well. So they were having a go, I suppose. He was nearest the post, I think, at the back end of that game. They have been fantastic, though, haven't they, Hunslet, over the course of the season? A real beacon of consistency. 19 wins in total. Get this for a result. Kells 60, Thatto Heath Crusaders 10. So there was a hat-trick for Parr, 2 tries for Nelson, a hat-trick for Weir, Ainley, Jennings and Greers also scoring. Delighted for young Dylan Greers, because he's been in the England Community Lions under-18 setup, so he's stepping up now into the first team for Kells. Great prospect there. Goal split between Gameford, who kicked 4, Weir, who kicked 4, and for a disappointing Thatto Heath Crusaders, who only trailed by 18 points to 0 at half time, they had tries to cheer from Lynn and Stewart, with Turner kicking a goal. There was a turn up for the Bucks at Lot Lane as well, so Lot Lane, all they had to do was win. In fact, to be honest, all Thatto had to do was win, and they would have made the top 6. All Lot Lane had to do was win, and they make the top 6. Lee Miners Rangers coming out with a notable double against them, winning by 14 points to 10. So Lot Lane scoring tries through Duncan and Sowerby, Butler kicking the only goal for them. Meanwhile, for Lee Miners, there were tries from Pilkington, Williamson and Gotts, with Pilkington kicking a goal. It was all locked up at half-time at 4 points each. But fair play to Lee Miners Rangers. It's largely been a season to forget for them, but they've kind of finished on a high there, haven't they? And they've got plenty to think about.
That's good, isn't it? And that's important, I think, isn't it? Because it doesn't take you totally and utterly into next season with a massive downer, as it were.
Now, 9 or 10 weeks ago, we were mentioning that Siddle were on the cusp of joining the relegation battle. Unbelievably, this is Siddle. This is one of the biggest community clubs that there is, and certainly one of the big boys in the National Conference League. They've hosted Rochdale Mayfield at the weekend, and we all know what sort of season Rochdale Mayfield have had. They defeated them by 34 points to 6, so there was tries from Hay, Waite, Walsh, McCallum, Hosty and Ackroyd. Goal split between Martin, who grabbed 1, Walsh, who kicked 4. For Rochdale Mayfield, Travis Long scored their only try, with Ratcliffe kicking a goal in the second half. That must have made it quite close, because at half time it was 16 points to 4, so they've had a bit of a shot at a penalty there. But what a result for Siddle. So that has moved them right into the playoff positions. So they, after those results, have finished in fifth place, which is tremendous. Wafbrough Hornets also finishing their league campaign on a high, with a 42 points to 0 thrashing of Wigan St Pat's. Our good friend Frank King scoring a couple of tries. Jay Wetherill, though, he's had a season to remember. He's on 20 plus tries for the year now. He scored 5 tries in that game. Awesome performance for him. Caddy and Rooney scoring the other tries there, with goal split between, again, Walker Taylor, who kicked 1, Kerwin, who kicked 1, and Wetherill, who kicked 1. So it was, if you were near to the post, you grabbed the ball and you had to go at kicking a goal, it looks like.
It certainly does, doesn't it?
And then York Acorn, they knew that if they could get a win against West Hull, they would make the playoffs. They haven't. They've got beat by 50 points to 4 against West Hull. West Hull have had a fantastic second half of the season. I can't wait for these playoffs to actually see what it's going to be like when they play against Hunslet. That is going to be a game of the ages, isn't it, when they come against each other. So York Acorn scoring their only try through Teng. West, though, they grabbed 9 tries in total. Short with 1, Moore with 3, Nicholas with 2, Welburn with 1, and Buttery with 2. With Wilson, that goal-kicking prop forward, remember? Kicking 7 goals, 50 points to 4. What a result. So, that has confirmed much of what needed confirming. Okay, so you've got Hunslet against West Hull. You've got Hunslet, West Hull, Rochdale, Mayfield, the top 3. Then you've got Wharfborough in 4th, Siddle in 5th. Currently, Thatto Heath Crusaders are in 6th. However, there's one game of the league campaign remaining in the Premier Division, and a win for Kells this weekend up at Wigan St Pat's, and they take the final playoff position, and they will have a playoff game against Rochdale Mayfield next Tuesday.
So will is it not dependent on how many they score, or did they get it by virtue of how many points they will have got? Points difference.
Well,
that's something.
Yeah, Thatterweath are minus 143.
Yeah.
So any sort of win, and they go above them.
Yeah, that's. Do you know what? You'd have to go back. In fact, I don't think you could go back in the books and see anything where that 143 for Thatterweath Crusaders. Yeah, that is amazing. The amount of games they've lost this season.
It says something about the competitiveness of the division.
It does. I agree. Yeah,
but it almost looked like at one point I was coming home from Cumbria and all the results were starting to come through and all the team sheets that get sent through like they do, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, nobody wants 6th spot.
Yeah, it looked that way, didn't it? Yeah,
because you had York Acorn who could have wrapped it up, you had Lock Lane who could have wrapped it up, and you had Datto who could have wrapped it, really wrapped it up, and none of them took the advantage. So if Kells win, I repeat, they go and play against Rochdale Mayfield next Tuesday. What a game that could be. But if they lose, it'll also be Thatto Heath who will go over to Rochdale Mayfield next Tuesday.
And the irony there is that scoreline of Kells 60, Thatcher's Crusaders 10 as well, isn't it? This weekend. That's huge.
It is. It's absolutely huge. So Division 1, West Bowling were presented with the Championship trophy, and they lost.
Yeah.
Up at Introse Bridge. So again, just their 3rd loss of the season. They've been tremendous. But what a win this is for Introse Bridge. So Butler, Pete Valentine, Morrison and Jay Malone going in for the tries. Kieran Eccleston, the veteran. He won't like me saying that, but I can say it, and he used to be an academy kid at Lee, so that's all right. He kicked 4 goals. For West Bowling, they had a couple of tries from Truman, 1 from Wright, and 3 goals from the boot of Cole. They actually led by 12 points to 10 at half-time, but ultimately Introse Bridge getting the job done, and they must be so frustrated about thinking what else could have happened.
Yeah, very much so.
Over the course of the season.
The other thing I was reading about West Bowling, aren't they losing the coach?
So Dean Muir joined them at the start of the season. He was tasked with getting them into the Premier Division. He's done just that. He's only gone and been successful in getting the job at Hunslet for next season.
Yeah.
So fair play to him. He's a man of his word. He's delivered what they wanted, and he's getting another shot at the professional ranks. So he was on the coaching staff. I think it was at Keighley.
Yeah.
A few years ago. I'm delighted for him, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, he's proved his credential there, because West Bowling have been outstanding as well, hasn't he? Haven't they? You know what I mean?
Oh, they have.
So good for him to get a crack there at Hunslet.
I know. I'll sound like Brian Clough here a little bit. Once they've been worthy champions.
Champions.
I
agree. Yeah.
Very, very good. As we all know, Egremont confirmed their place in the Premier Division last week. So the eyes of the National Conference League were on what were going to happen with the playoff positions, and there was a couple of really interesting results as well. So Alton Raiders 26, Heworth 18. So the Raiders scoring tries through Holdsworth, who grabbed 2. Day Waters also going over. Kieran Walpole kicking 5 goals, and for Heworth, West, Richmond and Elliott going over for tries. That tricky goal kicker Sadler kicked 3 goals there. 12-all at half-time. That's a really good win, that, for Alton Raiders. And it moves them up to 5th in the table, doesn't it? So they've wrapped up that 5th position. There was also a bit of a shoot-off, really, between Skirler and Clockface Miners. It was going to be a case of whoever won that game would wrap up 6th spot in Division 1. And it proved no match, to be honest. Skirler got a really professional job done. So Livingston scored 2 tries, Atkinson scored 2 tries, Puckering grabbed 2 tries, Morrow, Oliver and McGee, the other try scorers. Gilby kicked 5 goals, Render kicked 1. And for Clockface Miners, they had just a solo try from Leyden to celebrate. What a result that is for Skirler.
And it's absolutely huge. And I've got to take my hat off to Clockface Miners as well. Obviously, they were promoted from last season. And they've had a chance there, obviously, if they could have turned Skirler over, of getting in the playoffs. So, I mean, you've got, again, lost a couple of players at the end of last season to the semi-professional game, but have done really well, and they can hold their head up high, ready for a new challenge next year.
Stanningley 24, Crossfields 22. So that's a result that wraps up 4th spot for Stanningley. Really close one there, 12 points each. Stanningley scoring tries through Richards, Townend, Salkeld and Selby, with Butterill kicking 4 goals. Meanwhile, for the Soap, there were tries from Whittaker, Stanway, Walker and Fox. Stanway kicking 3 goals. Brad Stanway's certainly been a real fulcrum second half of the season performer, hasn't he, as far as Crossfields are concerned. He's kept them very, very competitive, hasn't he?
Yeah. If I remember rightly, I picked him as man of the match in the Warrington Cup game.
Yes.
That was at the beginning of the season. He stood out, really, really did. And he's a classy player.
Talking about class, in the end, Pilkington Rex came and finished their league campaign with a 34-28 victory against Thornhill Trojans. So Thornhill had tries from Lee, who grabbed a hat-trick, Gibson, who scored 2 and kicked 2 goals. He's such an important player for Thornhill, him. He's a fantastic competitor, a superb player, to be honest. Mitchell grabbing the other try. But for Pilkington Rex, they had 2 tries from Morris, 1 try each from Martin, Lynch and O'Connell. Riley also getting on the scoreboard with our good friend Connick kicking 5 goals. And it's a long time between drinks and wins as far as Pilkington Rex are concerned.
Certainly is, and it's going to be interesting how they restructure for things next season. Obviously,
well, we are waiting for confirmation from the National Conference League actually about whether or not they're getting relegated from Division 1 now. So they may have got a bit of a reprieve just based on. I'm still yet to see this, by the way. So we are waiting something to happen here. So we're waiting for an email to come, which will confirm who's going to what division. Because if you remember, we obviously had Featherstone Lions, who's not
not
that's
been
right,
part
of that. So that kind of
there's an imbalance, isn't there?
There is an imbalance, you know. So we definitely know there's 3 dropping from the Premier Division. We definitely know there's 3 getting promoted from Division 1.
Yeah.
There's potentially a club or 2 or 3 coming into Division 3 in the National Conference for next season. There's 3 teams that are moving up from that division. There's 3 teams that are due to move up from Division 2. There's 3 teams coming out of Division 2 to go into Division 3 from Division 2. So you're right, we've got a little bit of an imbalance here. So there's a decision to be made, I feel, about what's going to happen there. It might actually only see 1 club relegated, so it might be Thornhill Trojans, but we'll get some confirmation on that.
Yeah.
And as soon as I know, you'll know as well on the show, Steve.
Well, but it's still holds water though that it's going to be interesting to see how they do change next year, because I think that this indicates, virtually, 2 relegation seasons on the trot shows that there are issues that need to be addressed.
There's definitely things that they need to sort out, and don't get me wrong, they've had some terrible luck with injuries as well this season.
I agree.
I know, speaking to the guys, I think by the halfway point of the season they'd used 10 different players across the half-backs, and they got another, 8 players that they'd use at full-back throughout the season. So you can't build any sort of consistency. If you've got the very core of your side and the guys that you're asking to do the job changing every other week, then you're always going to struggle, aren't you, to be fair? Games from Division 2, well, this finished Dewsbury Celtic 28, Waterhead Warriors 26. What a result for Dewsbury Celtic. So currently, at the moment, they are, where are they? They're sitting in 6th spot, aren't they? So Dewsbury Celtic 28, Waterhead Warriors 26. Thomas Copley with 2 tries, Bottomley and Paul Fulston going in. Copley also kicking 4 goals. For the Warriors, Young, Bridge scoring 2, Dean and Taylor also going over the line. Hamilton kicking 3 goals. It's strange that we're speaking of a game that he doesn't actually score a try in, isn't it?
Yes.
After the season that he's had. But what a win that is for Dewsbury Celtic. It just shows that they've been so competitive over the course of the season. And, you kind of look at it. They've won 10, they've lost 12. And they've had some narrow defeats in those losses, to be fair. And you're thinking, they're only a couple of wins from really cementing a playoff position, aren't they, there in the season? So it's been a season of progression there as well. East Leeds 66, Normanton Knights 22. They've saved the best to last.
I said it, didn't I? I said this story isn't over yet. When I saw that result, I thought, hang on. Again, going back to what I was saying before about if you're finishing your season with something like that, that's going to buy you ready for next season, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Even though what has gone before is, you think, oh, hang on, this is disaster. We're going to be, nobody's going to want to play and all that sort of scenarios. But well done, massive that. And let's be honest, Normanton Knights are no pushovers.
No. I mean, you've seen them a couple of times this season, haven't you? And know how competitive that they can be as well. So, East Leeds scoring tries through Edwards, Jacassi grabbing 3 tries. Nice to be mentioning Andy again there. Yeah. One of those heroes from Italy last year for the Community Lions under-19s. Thompson grabbed 2 tries. Duckworth, who I said blotted his copybook by getting sin-binned, managed to stay on and scored 3 tries as well. Player coach Woofit went over for a try. Mensah and Mullen also scoring. Littlewood landing 9 goals. Fantastic end of the season there. Yeah. Meanwhile, for Normanton Knights, who trailed by 40 points to 0 at half-time. What a first half that was from East Leeds. They had tries to cheer in the second half from Robinson, Joe Crossland, Biscombe and Beresford. Joe Crossland also kicked 3 goals as well, but distinctly second best on the day. Myton Warriors, they've given themselves a real shot in the arm for being able to stay up in the division. So this is courtesy of a 40 points to 24 result against Milford. They played away at Milford. Now, Milford actually led at half-time in this one by 18 points to 10 as well. So what a second half that is from Myton. And you look at the scorers, well, Milford, they had tries from Schofield, Ruan, Jones Bishop and Greenall, Payne kicking 4 goals. Meanwhile, for Myton Warriors, James scored a hat-trick, Walker scored a try, Slater scored 2, Ward also grabbed 1 for his tally, and Walker kicked 6 goals. What a turnaround. And then Saddleworth Rangers, they are a team that is so much on form at the moment. This is now 3 wins in the row, and they've scored 34 points in each of them. If you're scoring 34 points a game, you're not going to lose too many.
No, you'd worry about your defence if you are.
What a turnaround. I mean, they've defeated Barrow Island by 34 points to 10. It was 10 points to 4 at half-time. Kenway, Hart, Waring, England, Charles and Holden scoring the tries. Whitehead kicking 5 goals. Meanwhile, for Barrow, they had a couple of tries to cheer from Sanderson and a goal from Jones, but was sadly second best on the day. Wow. So Saddleworth, after looking almost like they were going to get relegated, suddenly find themselves right on the edge of a playoff. amazing stuff. I'll tell you all about that in a minute as well. But we've got to round up a couple of other results. So Wigan St Jude's 16, Dewsbury Moor Maroons 13. That's a class result for Wigan St Jude's against the already promoted Dewsbury Moor Maroons. Morley Samuels, Mellin and Dugdale scoring their tries. Cassidy kicking 2 goals as well.
Can't keep him away, can you?
Can't keep him away from the action. For Dewsbury Moor, they had a try from Butterfield, 1 from James Walker kicking 2 goals, and there was a drop goal from Foster, which they must have fancied at the time that was going to win the game.
Possibly.
So I'm guessing that was a late try that Wigan St Jude scored in that one. And then Woolston Rovers 16, Shawcross Sharks 30. So they finished the dynasty there, did Shawcross Sharks with a win, and it was because Parky didn't turn up. So 30 points to 16. Woolston scoring tries through Hickman, Palin and Adam Files. Lawton kicking 2 goals. Meanwhile, the Sharks, they celebrated tries through Akideru, who scored 2. Milburn, West, Tomlinson and Stevenson, with Tomlinson kicking 3 goals.
Tomlinson there in amongst it again.
Nothing between the teams at half-time, by the way, in this one. Just 8 points to 6 in favour of Shawcross Sharks. But that's a great second half. And that finally confirms that they're going to finish the league in 3rd position. It's been a good season as far as they're concerned. So, one game outstanding in Division 3, and there was another playoff position to be decided as well. So basically Driglington won and Driglington made the playoffs. Okay. And win they did, and win handsomely against Seaton Rangers by 58 points to 12. Hunter grabbing a try, Hallis scoring 3, Brereton, Walker, Wright, Griffiths, Joe Sanderson and Burton also scoring tries for Drig. 9 goals from the boot of Joe Sanderson. Rangers, well, they've had a season to forget, sadly. Just 3 wins throughout the campaign. They scored tries through Dover and Brian kicking 2 goals, but ultimately Driglington winning by 58 points to 12. Now, if I can just go back to Division 2 just to explain a little bit more about what's happening, because again, exactly like what's happened in the Premier Division,
I see.
we have one game outstanding, which is going to be played this weekend. Now, the playoffs, they have been moved to accommodate this. So, at the moment, they couldn't move the playoffs as much in the Premier Division because they're a bit tied into what games need to be played when.
Yeah.
And the fact that it all comes to a close at Featherstone Rovers on either the Saturday or the Sunday in October. So that is dependent on how Featherstone Rovers does in their playoffs.
Got you. Yeah.
And what's going to be shown on television when and that type of stuff. Okay. Am I making myself clear so far? Okay. I'm glad about that. So that meant that the Premier Division games had to be sort of like almost shoehorned in, which is why we're talking about a Tuesday night playoff game next week. Okay. Because it's a shorter playoff campaign, as far as all the rest of the league is concerned, where basically you've got 3rd place against 6th, 4th against 5th, and then a playoff in a grand final the week after.
Yep.
It's much shorter and much more condensed. So, there is one game left. A few weeks ago, this would have been a relegation decider. It's no longer a relegation decider. It is for Myton. So this weekend, the one game that's left in Division 2 is
Saddleworth against
Myton. Yeah, what a game! What a game to finish it all off. And Saddleworth, they win that, they sew up 6th position. So it's almost like exactly what's happened in the Premier Division with Kells.
So they'll jump above Dewsbury Celtic then, won't they?
They would.
Yeah.
They would, I think so,
Yeah,
because that would take them to 22 points for the season. Dewsbury Celtic, who currently are in that and are nervously watching, because they could still end up in the playoffs. So that playoff is going to be played next week.
Yeah.
I'm making myself clear.
It's real squeaky bum time, as they say.
It certainly is. It certainly is. So what does that mean to all the fixtures that we've got this weekend then? Well, in the Premier Division, we've got the playoff elimination semi-final. Wharfborough Hornets against Siddle. That's going to be shown live on our league, so I'll be heading up the M6 for that one. Really looking forward to it. I know they're a great club, Wharfborough Hornets, and who knows, I might have a chat with Fran, our mate Fran, while I'm up there. But we'll see what happens in that one. I've already said, the fact that Siddle have actually made these playoffs is a story in itself, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because they've had really the ups and downs of the season, haven't they? They won the Barley National Cup, and then the coach leaves.
That's right, yeah. We forget about that, don't we?
And then Jake Connor steps in,
yeah,
and it looks like they're going down. They lose a few games, and then suddenly they've got to the back end of the season. They've put a run of results together. They've landed themselves in the playoffs. So that one league game in the Premier Division remaining will be played on Saturday between Wigan St Pat's and Kells. Kells win that, they're in the playoffs. They're playing against Rochdale Mayfield the following Tuesday. Then in the Division 1 playoffs, this is simple. So Heworth are up against Skirler, Stanley are up against Ulton Raiders. Winners go through to the grand final to contest the last place. And in Division 2, we have one playoff game confirmed. Woolston Rovers will host Wigan St Jude's.
And that's where I will be. Let's hope it doesn't get abandoned.
Oh, yeah, stay away if it's going to... I'm hoping it's not going to be abandoned. And then that lone league game remaining, Saddleworth Rangers up against Mighton Warriors, which would mean that their playoff game against Shawcross Sharks would take place the following week.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And then Division 3, this is far more easy to understand as well. We've basically got Lee East up against Driglington, who made that final playoff push. Millham up against Beverley, winners through to a playoff final. So if you're expecting things to go possibly how they would do, depending on league structure, that could then see Lee East travel up to Millham for a playoff of who goes into Division 2 next season. Oh, I'll tell you what, it's all warming up, isn't it?
Just going back to that Division 2 playoff semi-final against Woolston Rovers against Wigan St Jude's. You were at that fixture. Well, you were at the Jude's Woolston fixture, not
I was,
a few weeks ago.
Yeah, because that was where we did our soft launch at trying to do the commentary, wasn't it? You know, and you was one of 5 people that tuned in live.
I was there. I caught it.
You can say you was there.
I caught it just by luck. What's Parky doing here? What's Parky doing?
And on that day, Wigan St Jude's were much the better side. I'm intrigued as to where this one goes.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I'm looking forward to that one, I must admit.
Obviously, with Woolston having the home advantage as well this time, which is, you know, I know their form has been a little bit up and down over the course of the season, and coaching staff haven't been too happy at times, and I've been very frustrated. They've still won enough games to ensure that they get the home advantage, haven't they?
Yeah, on fixture, yeah.
So
that'll be a really good game. That's always a good game, whether or not even if it's a league fixture, like you say, you're always going to get a good battle. This is going to be the same, and just turn it up a notch because hopefully they get a good crowd down for that as well. Because I know Wigan St Jude's usually fetch a good crowd.
Very much so, very much so. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing how that one goes, and no doubt you'll have your ear close to the ground.
I certainly will.
And obviously we've got friends in both clubs, haven't we?
That's right,
as far as the show goes. So best of luck. Best of luck to everybody that's taking part in a playoff game or league game this coming weekend.
Because even the league games there, I mean, are like playoff games to a certain, because they're playing off for something, aren't they?
They are.
So it'd be interesting to see these next week.
Well, interestingly enough, Mighton Warriors win, Barrow Island get relegated. Potentially.
Wow.
Again, dependent on what's
going to happen.
On what the shuffle is, but what we're looking at, bottom 3. And Barrow Island were comfortably in the playoffs last year, if you remember.
Yeah.
So it just shows how things can change, doesn't it?
It's a lot of points that Barrow Island have let in, haven't they?
It is.
Points difference 213.
Now, there's also, if you fancy your community rugby league of an international flavour, England Community Lions have 2 more games to come. So the under-16s and the under-18s are both in action over at Lee Miners Rangers Academy. So that's the Manchester Road ground, not the Twist Lane one. And that should be really intriguing as well. So Wales under-16s warmed up for a clash against England last week with a trip up to Barrow Island, where they played against Scotland and won by 84 points to 4. So that's a really impressive performance from Wales. And yeah, that's going to be a real test for England across both of the internationals, particularly when you consider how well that Ireland did in the recent fixtures against the England.
That's right.
Lions.
Yeah.
What have they learned from that?
That's it, and it's good, isn't it, that these competitions take place at a different age group again, like we've said in the past, because it gives them the flavour of playing in those higher matches, and then obviously from moving on. From a certainly from an England point of view and a Wales point of view, is you've then got hopefully players who are not coming in cold if they're still continuing that form to be up for selection for the year after. They've always got that in the bag straight away. You know what I mean? Because like we've always said, if you go touring or if you're playing in these competitions, it's not just about if you are a good player. You've got to be a good squad person. You've got to be able to, sort of mix with the other lads, and you've got to get that team spirit. And getting that amongst people who are not meeting so often, it is difficult. I mean, when you've got a full season to do that, it's a lot easier. But if you've got that somebody who's used to that type of thing or dropping into that type of thing from an early age, it makes things a lot easier, and it makes the competition better as well, doesn't it?
So these are the last under-16s and under-18s fixtures for this season.
Yeah.
So do get yourself along to Lee Miners Rangers Academy if you certainly can do. And I've got to give a mention as well before we move on to West Wales. So West Wales, they've got an Origin series that's been taking part over in Wales, to be honest. I was lucky enough to be there for North Wales when they hosted East Wales, and that was a bit of a resounding win for the North Wales side in this one. This was the decider this past weekend, so it finished West Wales 38, North Wales 24 in the Origin decider. And this has been an important aspect as well, because it'll allow the coaching staff to look at all the players that are eligible to play for the Wales Dragonhearts this coming October. So they'll play off against an England Community Lions under-23 side at the end of October.
Yeah.
So that's a game which is going to be happening in Wales. We're waiting I'm certainly waiting to being told exactly where it is. At the moment, I'm doing a magical mystery tour where I'm stepping on
It's Wales, Parker.
It will be Wales. That's as much as I know. It's a magical mystery tour. You never know where you'll end up.
And it's a bit like North Wales Crusaders, they're the same.
What a season they've had as well, by the way. Yeah. And it'd be only very remiss of me not to mention Toby Hughes, another one of those guys that we know very well through the show. Yeah. We know very well because of everything that he helped to accomplish last year for the Community Lions under-19s in Italy. He popped up with a magnificent drop goal right at the end of the game, didn't he?
He certainly did.
Send Oldham, this is big spending Oldham, spiralling out of the playoffs.
It's a nice little bit of form of late, I must admit.
They've had a couple of really good results, and
Yeah.
to be fair, you won't put it past them going over to Hunslet and maybe doing a job on them as well.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, what I like is the fact, which ties it in with our show, is you've got lads, community lads, who obviously are now getting that chance to play in semi-professional leagues. I mean, the other side of the argument is, hang on, we're losing them for the community game. But if they've got the chance to go on and do that, then you've got to say, you take your hats off. I mean, no matter what happens now, from a Crusaders point of view, Toby has always got that memory in his bank now forever, much as he's got the Italy and the European Championships win.
Yeah.
And he's bound forever. Do you know what I mean? The memories that you make throughout coming through the community, and he's transferred it over at the moment to the into the North Wales
And
Crusaders.
It's so encouraging when I look at a side like North Wales Crusaders, because they have given community players a real chance. So I look through their lineup and it's Ryan Ellis, Toby, they've got Pat Rainford there, who was at Lee East. They've got Sean Costello, who was over at
Plotface. That's right.
These are all lads that we've seen over the last few years, and I've certainly seen a lot of them as well, who are now getting deserved chances in the semi-pro ranks.
And for me, when you look at the obviously, like you're saying, the semi-pro ranks, because there's not a lot of money about. I mean, for me, surely it's better to give that opportunity to lads who are performing really well and are up for taking on that challenge. Because speaking to Toby, I know what he was saying was, obviously he was at Warrington Reserves and he's moved over now to North Wales Crusaders because he's getting more game time and he's obviously involved in there, and he's not that there was anything against Warrington as such. It was just that I've got a chance of getting more game time here.
It's a better standard than the reserve competition that we currently have, because the painting by numbers. So you generally find in reserve, and I'm getting on my hobby horse now, so I do apologise, but you do tend to find, don't you, with sort of reserve setups, there's not much chance for any of those lads to actually work their way through into the first team setup at Warrington. So it's a false position for a lot of those lads. Yeah. For me, they'd be far better staying with the community clubs, pushing their way through, and hopefully clubs that are progressive in that respect, who, don't get me wrong, they maybe don't have as much money, but they'll have a look at them and give them the chance, and like you said, they'll end up playing far more rugby league than they would if they were stuck in a reserve setup.
And then they're in the shot window a lot better, because they play far more, it's a better standard. I mean, people are going to say, well, hang on, this person who's doing well in this team here is playing that higher standard than he was. We'll have a look at him. Logic says that it mirrors what you would do, sort of higher up the leagues, i.e. Championship and Super League even. You know what I mean? So you're looking at the players like that where you're saying, well, they can cope with it.
We're nodding in agreement at each other from across the desk. What are you thinking at home? Let us know, because obviously this is it's a big talking point within the game, isn't it? Where do sort of the scholarships, the reserves, and I guess you can say the professional involvement, where do they fit in? Can they do it much better than they do? I certainly think that they can do. And I think that the answer is having more players available to community clubs for longer, and not getting hoovered up into a system where they're just making up the numbers. Yeah.
Another one, Parky, just before we move on. I threw just a random tweet out the other day on our site with regards to, I think it was, we've been discussing obviously the Friday night lights, how we've been enjoying those games, etc. And obviously the Shawcross Sharks sort of dilemma of playing so many games in a short space of time. So I basically put the tweet out that said, calling all community rugby league players, when would you prefer to play your games? Would it be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or maybe even a Sunday?
Okay.
And I let that run up till yesterday. So we've had about five or 6 days to do it. Got 88 votes through. It's not a massive amount, but it's still large enough. And it came out as Saturday, unsurprisingly to a certain degree. It was 68%. But there was 19% who liked Fridays. In fact, there was 10% said Sundays, would you believe?
Did they?
Yeah. And then 3% said Thursdays.
So definitely no Thursday night rugby then.
Nobody
really wants that.
Nobody
really wants that. But interesting cross section there. And let's be honest, we see adverts on the telly where it says only 70 people have taken part before they've been able to put something forward. And 75% recommended this.
Yeah, you don't tell them how many people were involved,
but they've got to show it.
Yeah,
you see, it quite often. You see it quite often on the little advert. So I quite like how you've set it all up, because we've had more people voting on that than some of these beauty products.
But I can understand the Saturday. But certainly the Sunday, surprisingly, that 10%. But it just shows you that that there are people thinking about, Saturday isn't all the be all and end all. And like I think we said last week, it's going to be interesting from next season if all the games are covered, Super League games are covered. Are they going to be shown on? You're going to get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and possibly Monday. Games shown maybe on different, sort of platforms, whether it be on our league, whether it be on terrestrial television like Channel 4. Then you've got Sky. Obviously, we'll do a couple of days, so there could be a lot there. There's a lot of games on there. So currently, do they only play on a Saturday because that at the moment doesn't really clash with Super League? What's going to happen? Because it's then still going to clash at some point. Because I'm sure Channel 4 will get more games next season. I'd be very, very surprised. But be interesting to see. Or is it just going to be one of them things where they say, well, okay, fair enough. Let's just spread it out and see how that goes. Is it better for the competition as a whole? Will you get more people playing? Will you get less forfeited games?
They've certainly got, there's a number of competitions that have to look at the number of forfeited games that they're getting now. And also as well, I think particularly the Carla League, that's happening up in Cumbria, they have limited referees as well. So it's something that the game as a whole needs to look at and trying to get more interest. But then again, you look at some of the daft tweets that have appeared over the last few days about referees and referee performances and referee calls, and you're thinking, why would anybody put themselves through to do that? But we can't have a game without referees, can we? At all. So, interesting. What do you think? Let us know. We'd love to include you in our conversation. So, by all accounts, just drop us a line. Right, moving on. We've got a big game to build up. So yes, we've mentioned all the playoff games, haven't we?
Yeah.
But there's a big game happening next Wednesday. This is happening over at the Totally Wicken Stadium. It is Great Britain Police up against New South Wales Police. They're on tour. They're coming over. They're making their way over as we speak.
I think are they in France at the moment? I think they are, aren't they?
So, in true 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show style, we spoke to the guys that are involved behind the scenes. So first of all, we're going to have a chat with Bob Marsden. He's the Great Britain Police coach. Okay, so a little bit earlier in the year when we were covering the President's Cup, we spoke to police boss Bob Marsden. He was telling us all about, at the time, they got interesting plans ahead. One of those is coming to fruition. On the other end of the line, I've got none other than Bob. How are you doing, mate? Are you okay?
Yeah, smashing, thank you. Better to hear from you, young man. It's always nice to speak to you.
Well, thank you very much. I've got to ask you about this this tour game that you've got coming up against it's New South Wales Police, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, what we've done, we've actually, of all things, obviously people may or may not know it's Sunday, so we've actually trained this morning. So we've had a let's say get together or a good training session at Oldham Rugby Union. So we had a good turnout, and it's all the build up for, let's say, when is it, Wednesday the 20th. We'll play the Australian Police at now, which is really for us a massive occasion, which are at St Helens. We've got the pleasure of using their ground. We're doing we've got the mascots to walk out with us. We've got your national anthem, and so we're trying to build it as a really big occasion, which is really good.
I mean, this sounds amazing. How did that come about? Getting to go to, I won't say New Knowsley Road, but you know what I mean. Whatever they call it these days, So how did that even come about? Getting to play at the home of the World Club Champions?
Well, partly we've pecked around. I've tried to think of people I may know or not know, so we've gone around. So it's come as partly the I think the, let's say that is it Surinen, is it called?
Oh, yeah.
Surinen, yeah. Well, he's he's linked, or let's say, I think maybe his son, whoever, maybe playing at St Helens, whichever. So he's come as their ambassador, which probably he's known as a bit of a legend in the game. So that's immediately touched a link. We've got ours, what do you call it, chairman, or the head manager, or was Mr. Cook, who's on Merseyside. So it's all sort of linked in and pushed it towards St Helens, etc. So yeah, so it's come up, and it's like, gosh, without rabbiting on too much, I've said to the lads, it's sort of something where you know, we're in the main dressing rooms, we're playing at St Helens, you're going to have hopefully a big crowd. It's a massive sort of game for us.
It's a bit of a pinch yourself sort of moment, isn't it? I mean, I know you had the pleasure of playing semi-professional for a few years, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I've done, I've played there, and I've played, sort of, you shouldn't say done it, been there, etc. But it's like reassuring to lads to say, listen, how big could you get to say you're playing? Actually, it's an international, it's Australian, be it police force, but it's an Australian team at St Helens. It's like, it's so massive, because years to come, if you say, I played there, and it's been in the change room, it's just a massive occasion. So good.
And also as well, you've been getting a few more lads who are playing more regular rugby. I notice I've been down Saddleworth a couple of times, and there's a couple of your police lads that are starting to play regular there again now, isn't there?
Well, what we've done, we've tried to push it a little bit where, it's sort of a catch-22 where you want everybody to be match fit. So we've sort of asked the lads, if you can play, be it second team, first team, so probably several or more, or half of the squad now are playing, be it first team or second team at the clubs, be it at Wigan, St Helens, wherever, their local clubs. So it's pushing it for fitness. So it's good for us, because to be honest, a lot of the lads, they've sort of bitten into it where they're up for it, and they're starting to, look better shape, etc. Yeah.
And is that something that you've kind of like built upon? I'm thinking, because obviously the armed forces, they've had it in their rules for a few years now, haven't they? That you can go and go back to like a community club, or you can play community rugby. Where with the police for many years, people have virtually had to stop, didn't they?
Yeah, well, it's sort of work commitments with, let's say, the police. Not like your army, etc. You go into a camp. The police have sort of, blimey, you work your shifts, you do your shifts. So it's sort of, things have changed where you can't sort of, let's say 20 years ago, you played for the police team. You was given time to have time to yourself, where now you can't. It's your time. So if you say, listen, let's get a bit of train on a Thursday night, and if they do, they've got to use their own time to be off. So it's a bit more pressure on them, but working and a lot of bits into it. So it's good, actually. It's good. Yeah, they're trying hard.
And to be fair as well, I mean, I know when we spoke, that was the main thing, wasn't it? The preparation for the matches,
yes.
And how, you could have a squad written down the week before, and then the week after, when you get to game day, all shifts, different shift patterns have come in, and you're scratching around looking for a team. So it's good that you've been able to put a little bit of planning in place, and you've been able to do this training today, really.
Well, it is the training today. You see, we had actually a very good turnout, probably a little bit more because we've sort of named a squad that's going to Australia, and then sort of, I mean, it's how much more can you say, listen, in a week and a half, we're playing New South Wales Police at St Helens, blah, blah, blah. So suddenly the lads have had a little kick up the bum and saying, well, I want part of this. So them sort of things of which is brilliant and to do, but I keep trying to get back to, and I've spoken to one or two at management team to say, you've got to go back to, you're representing Great Britain at any level. You've got to get that back to a bit of respect for Great Britain police again, if that makes sense. Get it back in the minds of people where, we're training next week, it's only for police. You've got to remember, a bit like the armed forces, you're representing, like your country, aren't you, in respect?
Yeah. I mean, I remember because I know you've got like an Australian trip coming up at the start of next
Yes.
year, haven't you? You know, so this is like all building towards that. And I know that when we were sort of like talking again back in the President's Cup and how much he was looking forward to that, I was going through, because you know I'm a complete rugby league nerd. I don't mind admitting that. But I was going through. I found an old box that was up in the loft. So basically, he's just been up there collecting dust for so many years, and in it, strangely enough, was a tour brochure from 1996, the police tour. And I can't remember whether that was an Australian thing as well, because I was just flicking through, because I remember at the time being a big Leigh fan, of course. We had a couple of A-team lads. So I think Chris Joint's brother was actually a police officer once upon a time, and he was like he was playing at Leigh, and you know, and he used to be up because of his shift pattern and stuff. He only used to be available sort of one in every 5 games and that type of stuff. But I remember that particular season, he was like he tried to do as many games as he could, so as he could get that recognition and go in the tour brochure and then make the trip as well. So I don't know. It was just. I don't even know why I'm even telling you this, to be honest, but I just found it as a little bit interesting, as a bit of a keepsake as well when it was all being. And do you feel that you kind of like you're making this sort of history again potentially?
It is, because it's sort of taking it back to what it was, because it's difficult now. I mean, as probably any coach will tell you now, the actual, the people change because things become more important. So let's say, you know, if I played rugby 20 years ago, be it whatever happened, I'll be training Tuesday, train Thursday, you want to play. But it's so hard now, because probably people have families, work is so important, so things change on the outlooks to people. So it's sort of bringing it back a bit to say, listen, you're representing, you're doing this. So it's sort of getting it back to, oh gosh, it's just bringing it back to not a normality, but trying to get back into people to say, let's get back to now what you're actually building for and doing. Because
it's a different level, isn't it? This.
Yes, it is, because, gosh, we've had 1 or 2 video centres actually, the Australian police playing, and to be, this is, you know, we're just talking about it today, and we said, right, so what happened here now? Go to Australia, they actually played, and let's say played live before an NFL game, New South Wales Police, and it was on like telly, 25,000 people watching it, and you think, blimey, wow, this is the police team. So they've done the same with us. So we're expecting, which we're hoping all comes forward, that we'll do a curtain raiser for one of the NFL games when we get there. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking it's massive. It's like it's a bit ridiculous, really, but it will happen. So it's a massive thing. Yeah.
Do you think in future maybe we could see these sort of games actually go and almost dovetailing with a Super League game? So you might have you know, this game first and then followed by the Super League game, because you've got a similar sort of kickoff, haven't you? You've got like 6 o'clock kickoff, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. I think you've got to try and push for it, but as it goes, it's like anything. It's sort of certain little reason. Let's say we're doing a Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, which is probably not ideal for a lot of people, but if it was at 7:30, you'd have to turn floodlights on. So suddenly there's an expense of floodlights. So there's silly little things what shouldn't have to happen, but you think, well, okay, we're paying for the game, turn your floodlights on. It's a couple of thousand, you know, little things change issues where you should think, well, blimey, let's all combine it and work together and not worry about these little things.
I mean, hopefully those are the sort of partnership things, aren't they, that you can work on over a number of seasons, I suppose, coming up. Yeah.
I think you've got to. It's all like a community where you've got to think, well, we're not a feeder club for St Helens or Wigan or whichever, but at the end of the day, it's sort of like I spoke to 1 or 2, like the armed forces actually the day we play, or give or take, like you've got the women's armed forces, I think the Masters, and another playing within us for about 2 or 3 days, give or take. So they're coming to us to watch the game and make it a bit of a, not to say community, but to come and support us. So it's really good, actually. It's drawing some good attention.
I mean, arguably, you did give the armed forces the toughest game, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it is getting there, and that's part of it. Where, you shouldn't. I don't moan to anybody, but it's sort of. I've got my head round it a little bit, where it can be sort of, like your students come into camp for 2 or 3 weeks before your armed forces. They've got a camp for 2 weeks, then you'll speak to the coach and say, "Oh yeah, we trained twice this week." I'll say, "Oh my goodness, we've trained twice in a year." So do you understand me? So, but I'm not mourning, because it's what it is. It's not going to change, and it's hey boys, hey, just get on with it, and what it is what it is, really, isn't it?
Definitely. But also as well, those guys can't say that they're playing against Australian opposition at the end of the year, can they?
Yeah, no. Well, that is a little bonus or incentive. So the lads are really up for it, and it's sort of a big thing. And you've got to sort of put it to the lads as well. We build for February to go to tour, etc. But now also, I know it sounds a bit far forward, we've got to also think 24, we come back, we carry on playing. So it's not just, it is for that, and it's a massive build-up, but then you've got to think, well, come back, rebuild, and go again type of thing.
Yeah, because it's continuation, isn't it? You're always refreshing. You're always looking for, like newer players who can also add to the group and expand on what you've got already.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to build on now, in like sort of, because we have like the Great Britain part of it, but also you have your Lancashire, Merseyside, so there's several little smaller groups what we've got to sort of build on as the feeder to us, so we can so that's got to be looked at as well. So there's a few little things we're building on and getting it back together. So yeah, hopefully come back, well, after this season, come back stronger, yeah.
Sounds exciting, Bob, to be fair. But before I let you go, I just want to sort of ask you about, so for the uninitiated who might be turning up and, they're hearing this interview and thinking, you know what, I'm going to head along to St Helens on this date, the 20th of September at 6 o'clock. I'm going to go and see what it's all about. What sort of players, who should they be looking out for from your side?
Will
you know at this stage?
we've actually, I don't want to break too many, but we've already discussed a little where okay, sort of the Aussies are coming over, and they sort of beat us to the bullet a little bit, because we've sort of informed them we're coming over in 24 February, so they sort of jumped and come to us first. So it's sort of, we're going to test it, but we've discussed this as sort of saying, well, I'm going to play a team, but it'll be a mixed team of, no disrespect, every coach wants to win, and you want to stuff them. But on the same hand, you've got to be a little bit open-minded how you do things. So they're not coming, it sounds a bit, they're not coming for nothing. They're coming to see what we're about, because we're not going to go over to Australia. They want to see what's coming their way. Does that make sense? It sounds a bit.
It does.
Do you understand me?
It's a typical coach's answer, this, to be honest, Bob.
Yeah.
You're not showing the hand. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So it's sort of, I'm going to play a team, but is it going to be the team what's going to start? But I'm not going to, no disrespect, and nobody would. I don't want to be like it's United and they're going to a silly cup match, so they're going to play the reserves. I will not do that, because you can't put a team you want to win. So I can't say to lads, this isn't your first team, so do what you can. That's not me. It's sort of, we've got a squad, and that squad is going to win a game, be it the starting team in Australia or not. It'll be a good team. It's hard, isn't it? It's pretty difficult for me to say.
Definitely. I suppose as well, you're also thinking as well, you've got one eye on the future. Not
yes.
Because you've already said about building for, sort of the next sort of period of time, which is 18 months or so, haven't you? So you've got that, but you've also got everything else that you're about, and you want to try out different things as well, don't you? And like we said, it's about not fully showing your hand, I suppose.
It is, and what you've got to remember, we've got 2 or 3 players or several players who this will be their last sort of, let's say, big hit. You get into your 30s, it's their sort of last tour. It'll be their last. It may not be their last season. So it's sort of, they want to go out on an high, but also we've got to get to get the other players to come in on board to say, listen, they've done it, they've been there, they're part of the coaching staff now, whatever.
This is what it's about.
Yes. So you've got to leave be a nice imprint. And I know I've got probably 2 or 3 who've said, listen, Bob, this is my last year. It's going to be a big finish, blah, 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 which is brilliant. But, you've got to step on from this, haven't we?
Definitely. Bob, I've really enjoyed having this chat again, mate. I'm looking forward to the game even more so now. And as I've said, you know that I'm the biggest rugby nerd going, so I will be there in quick fire time as I can from work to make sure that we're there. And we'll be covering it on the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show. But thanks a lot, Bob.
No, it's lovely. Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you and hopefully in a joyous mood after the game to speak to you.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
What a fantastic interview. What a great bloke.
Yeah, it's the passion in his voice. You can tell he's really, really die-hard into this, isn't he?
And I love it as well because he's obviously wanting to lift representing Great Britain Police up to a different sort of plane, isn't it? He's wanting there to be far more buy-in. And certainly, if you're going to be playing against Australians, you're going to get the buy-in, aren't you?
That's it, yeah. And if the thing is, the way this is organised as well, you're thinking, suddenly your mind's switching and you're thinking, well, from an Australian point of view, they must be thinking that we're going over there and suddenly we're playing, obviously a Great Britain side, representative side, but we're playing at sort of a well-known stadium, sort of worldwide now, after what had happened last season from the World Champions point of view.
The home of the World Champions.
That would be the one. But that's how it is, isn't it? I mean, because it's going to be great for them. It's going to be great for both, because the bottom line is we're always we're just on about it with Toby and does about creating memories. This is another one of those times, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant.
It is. And it would be remiss of us not to give this other gentleman a mention. So we spoke earlier on in the show to Mark Askew from Distington, and I mentioned that, we'd first met and first chatted to Distington during the lockdown period. Just coming out of that, we spoke to another guy, didn't we? We spoke to Mark Hobin from Portico. At the time, they were building their new clubhouse and they were developing so many things in so many different areas. Let's hear from him right now, and I feel like we're catching up. It's great to have you on the show again, mate. It's been too long.
It has, mate. Good evening, Parky. Good evening to everybody listening. Thanks very much for touching base ahead of what is a very, very busy time within our little world. But great to hear from you, Parky.
Yeah, I mean, things have changed a little bit, haven't they? Because I think when we last spoke, you'd opened your facility at Portico. You've had a couple of seasons in it now. If I can just touch base on that first of all, how's things been running for the club?
Oh, mate, going from strength to strength, it really has. And that clubhouse has really been the catalyst, as we suspected it would have been, for so many new opportunities at the club. If we fast forward to as recently as this week, we're delighted to have completed the erection of some new floodlights which have been funded. So we are now able to light up the fields of Portico Vine, not just for the rugby side, but the whole community now. It's a safer place now. It's our vision to keep the club as a community club, and because of that, then we want it to be a safe haven, not just when it's being used for rugby, but when people are walking the dogs, they're just going out for an evening stroll, or doing a bit of exercise on the fields. It just makes everyone feel a little bit safer. So that's been an absolute magnificent achievement, right on the back of opening our new clubhouse, which we can't believe we've just had our first birthday.
I mean, that's
May.
fantastic, isn't it? You know, I can't believe that. It shows how long it is since I did last speak to you, to be fair.
Yeah, we just seem to be rolling in from what my poor project manager. He's just rolling from one to another at the moment. But yeah, massive achievement, pal, and we're absolutely thrilled. So we've got a big light switch on event on the 27th of this month, just to commemorate that.
So I've got to ask, and I know this is a little bit childish of me, but you know, Sophie Ellis Bextor went and switched on Blackpool Illuminations this year. Who's got the big job?
Well, we were hoping for Johnny Vegas being St Helens, but no, seriously, on a serious point, we have got a few people lined up, but to be confirmed at the moment, mate. So I can't give anything away, unfortunately.
Well, that's fair enough. And I've got to say as well that if you're getting like lighting and floodlights put in, I mean, that's better than some NCL clubs, I have to admit.
Yeah, so we're going for a 50,000 all-seater stadium next. That's what my project manager doesn't know yet.
That's better than St Helens, no?
Well, we are trying to be the biggest and best club in St Helens, even if we take over the professional lot. But no, mate, no, we have got a few other things. Our previous clubhouse, which is still used for changing rooms, just needs a little bit of an arm around it and a little bit of a lick of paint. So there is another project ongoing to enhance that, and probably to try and attract some more girls and women, which obviously that side of the sport is growing at a phenomenal rate, which is amazing to see. And we've just started to get the ball rolling in relation to attracting a girls team to Portico Vine, which has been a long-term ambition of ours. But we need the facilities. Obviously, we've got the functional side, but we just want the playing side as well. So we're looking at a project next year now to have a dedicated female changing room with shower facilities, etc. So yeah, mate, it's all go at Portico as you would expect.
You mentioned about opportunities being provided, and one of those included the police team basing themselves out of your club, which you must be made up about, to be fair.
Oh yeah, Parker. Again, this is it's been another massive shot in the arm for our club, and really demonstrates the ethos of our belief of working with communities for communities, and that's something I think that's shared with the people I know at Great Britain Rugby League Police Association. Have the very same ethos, and we've built up, from a Portico point of view, a relationship with the GB squad over a number of years now, where local players based in the Northwest would give up their time around the ships, and they'd come to our club and they'd help with coaching sessions, they'd help on our festivals, fun days, they'd deliver knife crime awareness to some of the older kids, and support us with our youth engagement programmes. So our relationship's far-reaching, probably into the 7th or 8th year now. And on the back of those relationships and back of the good nature of the police officers and staff who gave up all those evenings and weekends to support our club, they've approached us to use the facilities as they are now for their base, for some of their training sessions. And as recently as this season just gone, we hosted our first ever Challenge Cup game at Portico Vine, which was a memorable occasion between the Great Britain Police team and West Common Gate from Wakefield. So unbelievable, levels that we're now achieving, something that we could never have dreamt of in the past. But it's all because of those close working relationships that these opportunities are coming. And at the centre of all this is the kids. So they're seeing good role models, good people coming through our club and linked to our club, and that can only better them as people as they grow up.
Has this also meant that you've sort of brought a greater role in this as well, or you've inherited a greater role?
I have, Parky. I'd say for my sins, but I'm really proud and really honoured to accept an offer from Great Britain Police to become their joint vice chair. That was, again, a very recent appointment, but it's something that I really hope that I can use my experience from heading up Portico to continue the growth and the phenomenal work that the Great Britain Police team have put in over the years. There again, they're all volunteers, all juggling their life with the work commitments with the Rugby League. So, yeah, lots in common with some of the key players there. And I know you spoke to Bob in the past, and Jim and Chris Cowling, the team manager, all unbelievably phenomenal people. So, yeah, it was a no-brainer for me when that opportunity came. I had to grab it with both hands. It's something that fills me with immense pride and excitement, because I think we just need to raise the awareness of what this organisation and association does daily up and down the country, and continue its growth, really, so that we can attract then the next generation of police officers and police staff to take the baton when some of our older players decide to hang up the boots.
Now, we've already spoken to Bob Marsden a little bit earlier on in the show, and he was saying that he's wanting Great Britain Police to be right at the pinnacle again, and that, to be fair, representative rugby, it means a lot, doesn't it?
It does, Parky. And speaking to that you mentioned there, Bob and Jim, the management team there, the passion and the desire is evident right from the outset. Just speaking to them every day, they live and breathe this. And I just want to help trying to raise that profile of the association, because the potential is there. Everything's in place, really. It's just needing just a bit more of a push now, internally within all the police organisations and forces across the country, and then hopefully that internal marketing and awareness will then attract us to be able to challenge at that level that Bob mentioned. Yeah,
I mean, you mentioned the passion that those two gentlemen show, and they do, but I can hear the passion in your voice as well for this.
Yeah, Packy, I'm fully committed, mate. As you know, I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. But it's really hard to get across in words just how unbelievable these people are. The players, the training sessions that they commit themselves to. And don't forget, this is juggling family life and this is juggling work commitments. This is something extra. And to represent your country, it's not just your club game. It's not just your local area team. It's not your community team. This is your country that you're representing. We've got some phenomenal opportunities upcoming. One I'm sure Bob's mentioned with New South Wales coming. They're currently touring now, currently in Barcelona, heading over to France for a game against the French police. And then on Wednesday, the 20th of September, they will be taking on our lads, and we hope to send them back down under with the tail between the legs, but work's ongoing in the background for that one.
I mean, how exciting is that, to welcome a touring team across like that? And just, again, I suppose a supplementary question here is, how much planning does something like that take?
Firstly, mate, unbelievably excited. It's something I've never experienced before, to have a touring team come over. Not just any country, but the other side of the world. The links that we've got through the police, again, that commonality. But planning wise, I think both myself and the team manager, Chris Cowling, we're looking forward to be a post match. I think when hopefully everything goes to plan, we get the win and we can have a chill, because it has been pretty much full on juggling the planning of this one. It's just such a momentous occasion for us, and we want to be seen as really good hosts, as I'm sure we will be. But I do also just want to place on record significant thanks to St Helens, the professional club, who've been unbelievably accommodating for this event. And I've recently spoke to our Australian counterparts, and they are absolutely buzzing about coming over to play at such a prestigious stadium. At
the home of the World Club Champions, nonetheless.
Well, we are going to try and get that trophy put out for some pictures with the Australians just to rub the noses in it. So yeah, that's the plan. We've put the fire in the stokers for that one. So,
but also, what will it mean to everybody by playing this prestigious fixture at the Totally Wicked Stadium anyway?
Yeah, again, as most clubs are now, numerous WhatsApp groups form part of our association, one specifically for the players, and some of the messages there about this is once in a lifetime. We'll never get this opportunity again. We're playing, as you said there, mate, home of the World Club Champions. They're going to be in the home club changing rooms. So, these are things that don't happen to the ordinary folk, do they? So that the players themselves are absolutely buzzing, and as you can imagine, the families are so proud of them, and the messages of support that we're getting both internally from the association and externally is really a big motivator for them now. And I think the realisation is now dawning on what a massive event this is. With all due respect to my beloved Portico, it will be pitched slightly different if they were playing the game at Portico as opposed to, the Totally Wicked Stadium. And similarly for the New South Wales players, they can't believe that they're coming over to play in that kind of stadium. That's something that when they started planning the tour, they didn't think for for 1 minute that we'd ever be able to pull this off. So yeah, it's been worth all the late nights and early hours, early mornings, mate.
And to be fair as well, this is only the first half of the programme, isn't it? Because, there's a Great Britain tour down under early next year.
Yeah, but we can't mention that, mate, because I've come to the party too late to get a ticket.
Oh, right, okay.
No, I'm only joking. I won't be allowed to go anyway. Mrs. Hopes won't let me. But no, on a serious point, pal. Yeah, so this is what they're declaring as the warm-up fixture. So the Great Britain lads will go out in March out to Australia and play the Australian Police, which obviously will be made up of New South Wales and Queensland. And the combined states then will all obviously have representatives at the Australian squad. So, yeah, we're thinking it's a recce that they're coming over, so we need to sort them out when they come over.
Another fascinating thing is that obviously in previous years there's been sort of World Cups, hasn't there, involving the different police forces, etc. I can definitely recall one a few years ago. It means that those can maybe start looking longer term at getting back on the fixture list, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right, Parky. Yeah, and it's twofold, really, that I think in this country as well, I think there's a piece of work that I'm hoping to pick up to get back the regional fixtures. Your West Yorkshires versus your Lancashires, as local as your Merseyside and your Cheshires versus Greater Manchester and Lancashire, and trying to attract some other regions. I know we've had some interest recently from Humberside, which I'm keen to progress. But it's like all of us, mate. Every one of us involved in Rugby League just wants to expand the game, in the right way and attract the right people. So there's a bit of work to do internally, which will then hopefully feed that latter part then if we can look at encouraging the national game, then international opportunities open themselves up. And there's so many now emerging nations who are taking up our loved game that the opportunities are going to be there. And what greater opportunities than, as you say, a World Cup for players then to really test themselves against like-minded individuals from different backgrounds, different cultures, different skill sets and different stories. And that's what Rugby League's all about, isn't it? It's about sharing stories, memories, experiences. So I think if things work internally in our country, there's absolutely no reason from a policing perspective that we can't have similar tournaments again.
Matt, you've really whetted my appetite for this game that's coming up on the 20th of September, and I'm sure that the people listening to this podcast will be pleased to hear that we're going to be attempting another broadcast from the game. So I'm really looking forward to doing that and painting it justice.
Oh, mate, we can't wait to welcome you, mate. I'm looking forward to meeting you again. I'm sure you'll do it absolute justice. So yeah, 6:00 kickoff, Wednesday the 20th of September at the Totally Wicked Stadium. Turnstiles open at 5:00 for any of your listeners who fancy either a local or a bit more of a trek from wherever they are. And it's only £3 for adults and under 18s is £1. So hopefully we've kept it as cost effective as we can. That's affordable.
That's affordable rugby league right there. It's a bargain.
Yeah, that's what we're after, Paul. It's trying to get as many people through the turnstiles as possible, and not many people have the opportunity to attend that stadium, do they, particularly at that kind of cost. So, yeah, we're looking at just opening it up, mate, as many people as can, whether you've been to Rugby League or not. I'm sure people listening clearly have got a deep-rooted love for our sport, but if they can share the message and maybe bring a friend who's not experienced the beautiful game, well, everyone's a winner.
I'm certainly guessing that there'll be plenty of social media released ahead of the game as well, so we'll be all over that, trying to push that as well for you. But thanks ever so much, Mark. Much appreciated.
Oh, thanks, Parky. Great to speak to you, pal.
So Mark Hobin there, a two-pronged interview, that one, wasn't it? Where he was talking about the development of Portico, the things that they've got going on, and exciting as well that they've got the new lights that are going to be there.
Yeah, I saw that up the other day, mentioned on Twitter, and I'd heard about them. That was one of the ventures that they were going, but I didn't know it was going to be so soon, I must admit.
Yeah.
Must admit.
So, and interesting who's going to switch the lights on as well. That's another tale.
I must admit, the game that he was on about, the representative game that the police played, and in the Challenge Cup, I was down there for that one, if you remember. I'm speaking to Mark that day, and he was so proud to show. He started showing me around, and the chairman came and he took me off my hands and he was showing me all around, and they love it, and it's a cracking setup.
You missed a chance there to give us an in-depth view. You know, you could have walked around and said, "Yes, we're in the home changing room now."
it was, and if you remember, I think were they playing Westgate Common?
Yes,
I think he said West Common Gate in there. If when we were just talking to him.
Hey, we've all made those. We've all made those little slips.
Well, didn't we just call it Westgate and it's Westgate Common?
Depends on your accent.
It depends where you live. Yeah,
definitely depends on your accent.
But and the actual, the way they've gone about it. You look at the actual venue now, and you think, as soon as you go in, you go, the amount of different things you can do in here. That you can host or do, and I believe. When I was there last, they were telling me about just before, just after it opened, they had a Tongan evening, and they had the roast hog and everything on. And I do believe they're doing something similar for the Australian lads. They're doing a Australian themed night, which. And that's great, isn't it? They've got their heads on right and doing everything superb.
And it's produced another opportunity, for the club to host, the Great Britain Police side and moving forward. But also it's presented an opportunity for Mark himself to get involved. And I know he'd be the first person to say, listen, it's not about me. But when you do get talking in those, and he's the perfect guy to push that forward, isn't he? And you heard how keen he was to push the praise onto so many other people that are involved in that organisation, and it's about giving them the momentum and giving them the sort of build up as well, isn't it?
And giving them the tools to do the job. So like he was talking about there about his project manager, I've asked him to do this, and I've set him this, that, but the bottom line is he's got those proper structures in place to be able to complete these projects. And that is, thinking that that's the way it is. If you're going to do it proper, them are the sort of processes. Yes, I'm using that word processes, but not in the proper rugby format you think I would be using
Not quite. But talking about projects, our next game is on the horizon then, isn't it? Because we are going to be broadcasting that game. We have been given permission to do that. I can tell you're excited by it because you get to go in your home stadium and actually set up all this broadcast gear.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think I tweeted you that if you're speaking to Mark, could he see if he could get us any bio details, with regards to certainly some of the players. I mean, some we do know. In fact, if I remember rightly, when we was at the game at it was Saddleworth against Shawcross Sharks, we were on about picking the man of match, and you picked a gentleman called Froggett, if I'm not wrong.
I did. He's played his part in the police over the years, and there was a certain Marsden playing at scrum half for Saddleworth there as well.
That's right, yeah.
And you heard Bob talking about it in his earlier interview about there's more players that are now starting to play. It used to be one of those things where you joined the police and you didn't really end up doing a lot of rugby league. It was seen as a bit of a no-no at one point, because I remember there was a lad called Dean Pirtle. So you've heard of Kieran Pirtle, doing the coach. His brother was a winger who was a fantastic goal kicker, wonderful goal kicker, and unfortunately the first time he had to go at pro rugby it didn't quite work out for him, but he went back, played for Wigan St Pat's, scored a hat load of points, and then Lee signed him for the 1996 season. So he kicks nearly 100 goals in what was quite an average Lee side, let's be totally honest.
There's been a lot of them though, Parky.
More than you can mention, to be fair, yeah. But he did two and a half seasons at Lee and then joined the police. Yeah. So I was like half expecting to see his name crop up somewhere along the line. Because interestingly enough, again, when I was chatting to Bob, we were talking about Chris Joint's brother. So Nick was another guy that played at Lee, joined the police, went on tour with the Great Britain Police side back in about 94, 95, 96, something like that. And that was the little brochure that I found the other day. when I was thumbing through. So yeah, it brings some great memories. It provides those great memories.
And not only that, if you go back, you've got people who have been really big in the game.
Brian Noble.
Atkinson was there from Leeds, another one. And I tell you what I do like, what they were on about. I'm not sure whether it was Bob or whether it was Mark was on about the concept of having the inter-counties thing.
Yes,
I think that is really good. That I like that, and that format and the way it was structured. Because obviously they're doing it from where they're based. So you would get a Merseyside, you would get obviously an Humber, you would get Yorkshire. So it wouldn't be specifically an origin type thing. But that, for me, that concept is really good.
But you could run a series of games, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And then that'd probably warm the police up a lot more for when they're playing again in the Challenge Cup, and also as well for when they're going into the President's Cup for later, representative games. Yeah. But it's great for us. I'm really pleased that we've been able
looking forward to it massively.
Get the permission to broadcast a representative game. So that's like pretty big. So this is a 6 o'clock kickoff next week. So I'm imploring you, if you can't get to the game, and they've made it really competitively priced, so it's only £3 and £1 to get in, cash turnstile. So get yourself down there, because you can't often spend your cash at New Knowsley Road, can you? Not to get in like that. You know what I mean?
Do you know what?
They don't have cash turnstiles these days. You've got to go and get a ticket.
I'm be surprised. I thought it was card on the turnstiles, but we'll have to try and find out about that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, fair enough then. Take your card as well, just in case.
Yeah. I would check on that one just in case. But I mean, majority of people have a card anyway. But I'm really looking forward to the whole thing, because from what they were saying, it's the national anthems and everything, isn't it? It's the full.
It is. It's the full kit.
International type, which is absolutely superb. It's going to be interesting. If you are local and you can get there, please do get down and get there. But obviously, I mean, if you've got friends who are playing and you're up in Yorkshire and you can't get over off your Cumbria, etc., or wherever you are, join us, because we'll be looking forward to it, and we'll bring you the best coverage we can, because it's something that we're really keen. Because Mark, who we spoke to on a couple of occasions now, every time we speak to him, like I said to Parker, I said he's like a politician. I said, because when he speaks to me, I said he could sell me anything. He makes Andy Burnham look amateur, and trust me, that's a tough push. But yeah, it's really, really good. And when you speak to the guy face to face, he is absolutely really passionate and committed. And certainly down there at Portico, he loves it. And obviously, they've recognised his talent for being able to do these things from a police point of view. And I love the way as well he understands, by doing the things like at Portico and doing this with the police and getting the police to come back and help the community in the ways of helping to coach the kids and doing the little talks and different things like that. It's a way to get into the community. It's which is not always the easiest thing to do. So yeah, it's doing a really, really good job.
So that is 6 o'clock next Wednesday night at the Totally Wicked Stadium. You're talking Great Britain Police taking on New South Wales Police. We'll have all the coverage. We'll be kicking off our coverage probably about 10 minutes before kick-off. I would certainly hope so. I'm going to be dashing from work anyway and looking to get down there nice and early. I don't think I've missed anything out, have I, Steve? I think we covered everything.
I think we have, Parky. I think we've, as I say, it's been a big one. We've gone from sort of light-heartedness to seriousness to really, sort of looking forward to what's going to happen next week. So obviously we won't have a show next week because
we will.
Well, we will, but it will be live, and they'll come to you for about 10 to 6 at Knowsley Road.
Yeah,
not Knowsley Road. New Knowsley Road.
New Knowsley Road. Yeah, the Totally Wicked. Go and have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.